Um, hold on, Gene is muted. We'll wait for him.
Yeah, sorry. What's up?
Oh, it's okay. All right. Welcome everyone to Eyes Wide Watch Club, episode 8. We are here in April, still here. It's funny how I keep seeing things about movies and things like that, and this is going to be coming out in 2028. There was just an announcement that there's going to be a new stunt Oscars released in 2028, and I keep thinking, are we gonna make it there? Are we gonna make it that far? We're getting a little ahead of ourselves. But
The new what?
they're doing a stunt category in the Oscars.
Oh,
Yeah, in
why
like a couple years.
2028? Why not just like next year?
I think they have to like develop rules for it or whatever, you
Yeah.
know.
So you sit down in an office for like an 8-hour workday and you bang it out. What do you mean?
I don't know. I don't make these things. I don't know what I think there's like when you do the nominations too, there's like a whole like committee process too. I don't fucking know all the ins and outs, but that's what it is. This year though, we're finally getting the best casting category.
Really makes you wonder what these coked out executives are doing for 8 hours a day in their fucking offices.
Gene, I can tell you one thing. None of this red tape would have been here if we still had Harvey. Let me tell you. Just kidding.
Oh, we're starting it off right.
Hey. Just kidding.
That's good. Oh fuck, that's good.
All right. So we Gene, it was his selection from the Criterion Closet this month. So we watched American Graffiti, 1973. So Gene, why don't you take it away and introduce the film, bud, and why you picked it and whatnot and blah 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 blah.
Oh, Dan, no, I told you, this was a Planet of the Apes podcast now. We're now called Homies of the Apes.
See, this is what happens. No, this is what happens. Every time, Remington, remember we talked about this? Every time a Planet of the Apes movie comes out, it literally has this effect on culture where it takes over every podcast.
I will talk about Planet of the Apes some other time.
No,
but I watched it this morning. Anyway, yeah, American Graffiti. You asked why I picked it? Well, it's by George Lucas, as you all know, of Star Wars fame. I picked it, honestly, I wasn't sure what I was going to go with for my pick, and something reminded me of George Lucas. And that reminded me, like, oh yeah, he did that one movie before Star Wars that I would like to watch. This is a good pick for the podcast, and since both the movies you guys picked are like from the 70s, this kind of works. And that was really it. And I figured Remington would enjoy that. I figured you would enjoy it, Dan. Like I said last time, I just wasn't sure if Remington had watched it, which I'm glad to know that he had not. So yeah, there isn't much behind it. I just needed a movie, and it just kind of worked out that way. Oh, Mark Hamill. Mark Hamill was on Smartless, and he talked about Star Wars, of course, and he mentioned how, what is it? I think Lucas was apprehensive about casting Harrison Ford because Harrison Ford was in American Graffiti. And I think, Remington, you can correct me on this. The guy who played John Milner, he was also up for the running for Han Solo, right?
Sounds right. Also, Mark Hamill did audition for American Graffiti.
He did. He also did audition for Graffiti. Yeah. So Mark Hamill mentioned American Graffiti, and I was like, oh, that's actually a great choice for my pick. So yeah, American Graffiti, 1973, George Lucas, basically, come of age story, heavily influenced by Lucas's own upbringing in Modesto, California. The movie is set in Modesto, right? It wasn't shot there, but it is set there. It was shot in California, though. Lots of driving around in American muscle cars. We can dive into that. But yeah, that was the movie. Are we gonna go into just what we thought of it first? How are we doing this? That's kind of the format we've fallen into, right?
Yeah, just overall first reactions generally. I don't know if you want to go first.
Me?
Yeah. What'd you think of it?
No, yeah, yeah. Oh, I loved it. It was great. I kind of wish I had watched it before I watched Dazed and Confused, but this was years ago. because watching Days of Confused, you're like, oh, okay, like this Days of Confused is just this movie, but for like what, like 10 year later generation, right? Is Days of Confused in the set in the
Yeah.
70s? So I don't want to, I don't know if I'm assuming the director watched Graffiti and wanted to make his own movie about set in Texas, but it's basically it, right? I really loved it. It's really nice to just see Lucas, because he's only known for Star Wars, really. I mean, like Indiana Jones, obviously, but like that's his big work. That's his life's work. It's really cool just seeing like what did this guy do before that, and it's like, oh, like this is good. And I'm a sucker for that era of like Americana before everything got bad, and
It was
that's a huge
bad
theme in the
then
movie
too.
as well. Well, yeah, but you know what I mean. It's kind of a theme in the movie in a lot of ways. From what a lot of the reviews at the time kind of talked about that. A lot of the retrospective of the movie has talked about that. We'll get into that. Um, but yeah, I'm a sucker for that. I'm a sucker for American Muscle Cars and just like soundtrack. I love the soundtrack. You know, like that actually really stuck out to me. The sound design was incredible, and that kind of reminded me of like how great the sound design of Star Wars is with the iconic soundtrack and just like you guys talked about Civil War real quick with the gunshots. Like Star Wars has great sound design with like the blaster sounds and like the sound of the iconic Tie Fighter sound and all that. Like seeing this, I'm like, oh, like from the start, Lucas had a really good keen sense for sound design. Um, Cinematography that was really good. Just like I really enjoyed the shots of just like driving around. Kind of it's what is it? Tarantino kind of channels that, and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood as well. Like I guess he spent a lot of time in his youth just being driven around L.A. by his father or something. But no, I really really truly enjoyed it. I'm excited to get into it.
Yeah.
Remington kind of told us he loved it, so I want to hear him talk about that.
Oh yes, this was really such a treat. I'm really glad that you chose this, Gene, because as I said last episode, I had been saving this movie for quite some time, for like a specific moment when I would start to explore specific director filmographies. I was purposefully saving American Graffiti and THX 1138 for when I would get to Lucas, but this was a great little way to jump it ahead in the queue, so to speak, and finally get to see this movie because it is funny that you mention it because of course George Lucas, when we think George Lucas, we think of Star Wars and we think of Indiana Jones, but before those things, this was the movie, right? This movie went to the Oscars. It got like a bunch of nominations. It
Yeah,
was really acclaimed and loved when it came
yeah.
out. Surprise hit. The studios had no faith in it, and so
And
it
Star
was
Wars apparently. Jesus Christ,
yeah.
they had no
So
faith in him
so it
apparently.
was it was really incredible to get to watch this. I am someone who grew up with Happy Days, which was a TV show that came out like the year after this movie did, and it came out kind
Yeah,
of. It was technically a spin-off of a project that existed before this movie, but it was only able to get greenlit specifically because of the success of American Graffiti, the fact that they kind of cover similar subject matter, and the fact that they were able to secure Ron Howard as the lead,
yeah.
as Richie Cunningham in Happy Days after he had just been in American Graffiti. He was also, of course, joined by
Even.
what's her name?
Oh,
The girl who plays his girlfriend in American Graffiti. She's also in Happy Days
oh,
and
okay,
would
cool.
also go on to be uh, part of Laverne and Shirley, which was a spinoff of Happy Days too. So they're both carryovers from that film into this little like television universe. And so it was kind of cool to see where that all came from. Kind of like how you said, like you were like, oh yeah, this is kind of like this is where Days and Confused kind of comes from. For me, watching this
Yeah.
movie gave me the epiphany of, oh, so Grease is kind of just like less good American Graffiti, isn't it? And I'm saying this as someone who loves Grease. I'm like, oh, I see what you guys were doing with that. Yeah, like, so it's interesting because I really love this movie so much, as I said, as I told you guys. So it made me want to like go and look at different sources about like what people have said and like its influences. I didn't get as much as I wanted done because I unfortunately have been sick, and so my ability to like dive into things is not been as clear. But it's really cool to see how this movie kind of
kind of like invented the format for a lot of like teen movies and like
Oh
nostalgia
yeah,
pieces, like all
yeah,
the nostalgia pieces that we're just so like overrun with now, like within the last 10 years or so, like they're kind of playing from a similar playbook if you think about it. The whole like, oh, we have some kitschy production design and some callback like soundtrack,
yeah.
like that's like the playbook. Now, a lot that those people, those imitators, they don't do it as effectively as Lucas because they're not really doing it with like his consideration for mise en scene,
Yeah.
and specific emotional resonance. They're kind of just doing it because it's like, oh, that's a cool song, and here's my character doing a thing. Isn't doesn't this give you good feels? Like
Well,
but no, this movie
yeah.
was so cool. Like from like it's like following the vignettes and understanding that it takes place over the course of one night, and also just like the ending. Oh my god! Like
Oh
I was
yeah.
sitting for most of the movie. I was like, oh, I like this. It's fine. I like it. But I'm not quite love it there. But then that ending just hits you like a fucking wallop, and you're like,
Yeah.
oh, this. I'm like, this is his masterpiece. Like I love Star Wars. Swear to God on my dying grave, like I fucking love Star Wars so much, but like this is his masterpiece. Like they don't make movies like this anymore. Like
No,
pure solid
no.
Americana, straight from the
Remington's like
soul.
absolute cinema.
Yeah, no, it really is.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
yeah. So that's
yeah.
where I'm at, and I'm happy to really be here to talk with you boys about it.
I'm so happy Remington found his this is his version of Children of Men to me. um but ooh, oh no, is he still here? Yeah, he's still here.
I think he just. I think he just. I don't know. Can you hear us? Are you still here?
Oh, he's muted.
Oh.
Yes, I'm still here.
Oh, okay.
Oh. Okay. Okay. Okay.
There you
I
are.
want the
Yeah.
audience to see me being gross.
Oh no, it's okay.
No, no, it's fine. We just. You just. Discord cuts out sometimes just to make sure you're still. We're just making sure.
um
Daniel, your turn.
no. Yeah, a lot of thoughts. So it's funny when this movie first started and I started watching it. I haven't seen it before. Always was very aware of it. Never really knew exactly what it was about, but I always knew George Lucas. He had this movie American Graffiti, and I did see. This is not his first movie. This is his second movie. His first movie was THX 1138, I believe.
Yeah.
That movie I did see a long time ago, and I can't wait to get it. But so, when this movie first started, I kind of thought for the first 15 minutes of the setup, I kept thinking to myself, "Fuck, this isn't gonna be for me." Because I ended up. I'm
What is it?
typically.
There's no violence in this movie. Was that
I
what
know.
Peter says?
I know. There's no guy with a gun. I'm like such a degenerate. I'm like, there's no Robert De Niro. What's going on? But no, it's because it started and I thought, okay, this is gonna be some coming of age movie, 60s nostalgia. There's like a fucking there's a like a licensed song playing every other minute. I'm like, oh god, I'm not gonna like this, because it's funny. I am so not even that I don't like them, but so many coming of age movies just do nothing for me, especially the classics. I never cared for like Ferris Bueller's Day Off or like any of the John Hughes things, like Breakfast Club. I just couldn't care less. 16
You know, like
Candles.
Ferris Bueller's Day
Yeah.
Off.
It's fine. Like I don't
What's
hate
wrong
it.
with you?
I don't hate it. I just remember I saw it and I was like, yeah, whatever. Like maybe like I guess I should have had to have been there kind of thing. Like I don't know what
Yeah,
it
it's like
is.
derivative.
And we'll shake it up, baby now. Twist and shout. Come on, baby now.
or like Footloose.
Everything you sing anymore, we're gonna get copyrighted by Paul McCartney. Stop.
Anyway, but it's funny, like, no, so I started the movie and I was like, oh, this just isn't gonna really be my thing. Like maybe I won't hate it, but it's just not gonna be my thing. I can't believe how much this movie actually ended up winning me over. Like about like the hour mark in, and I started to be like, oh wait a minute, there is like something different about this, and it really did win me over. And that was, oh, I'm glad you mentioned that, Gene. Dazed and Confused. That was another one. I remember seeing Dazed and Confused and being like, what the fuck is this horse shit? I don't care. Yeah, McConaughey's funny, whatever. I don't give a shit. Like, get a job, you bums. I was like, in the beginning of the movie, I kept thinking, is this gonna be a movie where I'm just sitting there going, oh, just get a fucking job, you dirtbag. Stop driving around until 3 a.m. Who does that? No,
people back then, and they became illegal.
but so no, it really did end up winning me over by the end, and before that end thing. But no, I really did kind of love it, and when that ending text came up, you would have thought I won the Super Bowl. I was like, yeah, ooh, ooh, ooh. I'm like, yeah, that's right, he died in Nam. That's right. It hit me in like the best ways. I was like, perfect. I love, like, just as a movie, as a like, I thought that was such a great gut, like you said, a gut punch choice. I was like, yes, fucking.
Well, it's not even just like the text, because like we've seen like, this is probably where it comes from. I don't know, but like we've seen movies since that time that have done that similar motif at the end, where it's just like, and this person died of AIDS 2 months later. You know, like
It's almost
like
comical.
literally. Yeah, like literally,
it is.
I love Boys in the Hood, but when I first saw Boys in the Hood, it made me laugh when it's just like they're like hanging out, and then like the one kid's walking away. It's like he got shot and killed 2 weeks later. Like you know, like it does do that. But what makes it work here is that you go from like that close up on Richard Dreyfuss's face as the plane is like taking off, and he's like, clearly, like, he has like a mixed sense of like hope, but also anguish at leaving his town, and also just like reflecting on the fact that he didn't get to find the girl, but he's like happy his friends turned out for him. Like, such a like relatable well of emotions. And then it cuts to like that text, and then combined with the specific way that All Summer Long, that like Beach Boys song is cut, where it like
yeah.
homes,
oh my
and
god,
like,
yeah,
we're on the harmony where it's like, oh, it creates such like this wellspring of like bitter sweetness that just, it's so powerful. It really knocks your socks off, and it really just like brought this movie from like, you know, just like B plus and A minus to like solid A plus. Like it really just knocks it out of the park, that like end sequence of just how perfect it is to me.
Yeah, no, and oh god, yeah, no, there's so much this movie. Okay, oh my god, this may be the most fascinating movie that we've ever talked about. Because of course,
rich text.
Yeah, like, okay, so you guys are gonna love this. If I'm taking it in a vacuum and I'm not considering like all the George Lucas of it all, I think it's good. I think it's really, really great. I'm not as high as it on you guys are, because it's typically like a little bit more of admiring than enjoying, but I still like loved it. I'm just not as high on it, but
Dan. No, I'm glad you said that. So I like to go and read random letterbox reviews that people do, and someone for that movie said they adore the movie, they don't love it, but they admire it, but it's not like they you know. I thought it was really interesting, like the way they worded that. That's basically like kind of what you just said. You admire it versus like a love.
Yeah. I still do. I still like loved it. I still enjoyed it. I'm just saying I'm a little bit less as high on it. Not for any issues. I just it's not my Children of Men. But no, because this is George Lucas we're talking about. There is an absolute treasure trove of information about this movie online, and the notes that I have, I didn't really take many notes on the movie itself, but I
have a few notes.
The story about like the Lucas of it all is, we're gonna have a meal out of this. But yeah, no, just of course, because yeah, Star Wars was so formative to me as well. not these days, but yeah, just fascinating. One of the probably the most fascinating directors ever, George Lucas. I would argue. And this story,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
would agree.
and if you, and I think if you were to see a double feature of American Graffiti and his first movie, THX 1138, it may be the greatest like double pairing ever, like to see, because they're so, we'll get into it, but they're just so polar opposites of like, oh,
Yeah.
these two movies in a blender is Star Wars. And it's so funny how I when I first watched THX 1138, I was like, oh, this is definitely pre-Star Wars, but yeah, like it we'll get into it, but it's just amazing how like both of these movies represent everything that is George Lucas, like opposite of like the two aspects of him, kind of, I guess.
Yeah.
What's displayed
Yeah,
on,
and even
yeah.
still, you can see linkages, right? Like I haven't seen. I wanted to, in preparation for this, actually go and see THX 1138 because I loved American Graffiti so much. But I didn't get the chance. What I did get to see was the short film that THX
Oh, that's what
1138
you
comes from.
letterboxed. Got you.
Yes, that's his
I saw that. I'm like,
student
wait, did you
film.
watch THX? Okay, okay, got it, got
No,
it.
so THX 1138 comes from a film he made while he was in film school. It was a short film called Electronic Labyrinth THX 1138 4B. He made it after talking with a couple of his fellow students who had a similar idea of like wanting to do like a futuristic movie kind of. The other two
Yeah.
dropped it, but he kept up with the idea, and so he kind of developed this story that kind of like distills like his concerns about like technology and politics and the world at the time into like this
And
short little
blockades
15-minute
and
film.
trade federations.
Yeah, so like that film, he was then what after he graduated and he like formed his partnership with Francis Ford Coppola, and they were trying to think of like projects to get off the ground now that they were like striking it out on their own. That film was like one of the first things they did. And so he was like, why don't I just repurpose my student film into a feature? Because when it was a student film, it went to all these festivals and got like a bunch of acclaim. So he's like, we can build off of that and make a feature length film from that. So to me, to get circle back to what I was like originally about to say to Dan was I think you're right in terms of like how polar opposite is, and you can see how that becomes Star Wars, but you can also trace common linkages through those first three films where like they're all kind of about like young men facing a decision of like to go off into society, you know, and they're all political in their own way. Like Star Wars, the original Star Wars film is political. Whether or not the chuds like to admit it or not, like Lucas is very clear. There were very clear political inspirations, you know, across the film. And so it's interesting to see how he returns to this common idea of like a young person needing to make a choice in like pivotal moments in society and in culture, and just chafing under the political and cultural conditions of like I guess the late 60s early 70s transplanted to space, you know, like but
Yeah,
yeah.
but that's also like his own upbringing, as I talked about last time. How what is it? His father wanted him to just work in like their store or whatever that they owned, and Lucas set
His
out to film
dad
school
was owned a
instead.
clock. He was a clockmaker. They owned like a
Yeah,
clock shop.
yeah. And his father kind of like told him like just do this, and Lucas is like, I'm gonna go to film school instead and be rich and famous, and he did. You know, I mean, you know, he's someone who also had a decision to make, and you know, went against his father's wishes. You know, whatever. Same thing that Luke did against his uncle Owen, but you know, we'll get there.
Yeah, no. Oh my God, the parallels. Again, most fascinating director ever. So what I'll just mention about THX 11.3. I haven't seen the short film, so I'm not sure how similar it is to the actual one that he released. But so that movie THX 1138, I saw it back in college, so it's been a long time. But that movie is basically It's very experimental. It's basically 1984 in the Death Star. Like what you would love about watching THX 1138 is you can see like the set design. Like, oh, this is the Death Star. Like he's like the walls like with the lights coming out, like the hallways, like you can, the hologram thing.
It's just gray, yeah.
Yeah, the holograms like of people on screen or whatever, the communication. And I think the interrogation droid.
With the ball.
Yeah, I think that was also in it. It's not completely 1-to-1. Some things are a little different, but when you watch THX, like you can see, like, oh, this is the bones. This is it. Like as far as production design, you're like, this is the Death Star. He's doing this. He was doing the Death Star. Or it's the prototype. But what that film has nothing of is there's like zero human emotion. Like I remember it was just like the film itself was like robotic. It was George Lucas's tech demo, right? He was the light and magic guy. He was like always obsessed with the technology, knew his way, and that's what gave him so much acclaim among his classmates and everything. He was like the tech nerd, and he was always like fascinated by all that, but there was like no human emotion in it. So after the original THX 1138 came out, I forget if it was successful or not, but everyone like, it didn't have any mainstream appeal. It was just like a tech demo. It was very sci-fi, very like experimental. So it was Francis Ford Coppola, because this is also the great thing about the Lucas lore is you always think it's, oh, Lucas and Spielberg. No, it was Lucas, Spielberg, Coppola, Scorsese. Like they were all friends.
They're all friends. Also, they're friends with Brian De Palma and Paul Schrader. They're like a tight group of guys that came up together. Some were in school together. Others they met along the way. They're a team. They're a squad. Actually, it's really cool if you go back and look when Marty won his Oscar for The Departed. It was Lucas, Spielberg, and Coppola who went up to go and give him the Oscar. They gave like this funny little speech. Yeah, you can look it up. It's a really cute little speech where they're like teeing up to announce it, and they're just like, oh yeah, as previous members of the Academy, like it's always fun to reflect on like what it means to be a winner. That's and like Francis and Spielberg are like nodding like yeah, and then they look at George and they're like, what are you doing here? Because George has never won an Oscar, and he's like, well, I've been nominated a few times, and that counts just as much. And then Francis Ford Coppola and Spielberg are like, no, it's not. Like like the boys busting each other at the lunch table. But yeah. Not to derail you, Dan, but yes, Lucas, if you go and watch when Lucas was given the honorary Palme d'Or at Cannes last year, he had Francis Ford Coppola he had Francis Ford Coppola present it to him. Like Francis Ford Coppola gave like a little speech on his behalf, and then like presented it to Lucas when he came up on the stage. And in it's revealed that like Lucas thinks of Coppola as his like big brother. He calls him Big Brother.
Right. Yeah, no, it was funny when the movie came. I haven't done like a George Lucas deep dive since like high school, so it's like it was almost nostalgic for me, like going on this deep dive of like, oh, remember George Lucas? Like this guy is this career is insane. And there's just because, he had such a rich relationship with all of these legendary directors. There's so much documentation of all of these guys, like their lives so when I saw the movie and it was like, so Coppola's name was on it, I was like, oh, that's right, they were friends too. I totally forgot about that.
They literally had a company together, American Zoetrope. That's Coppola's company now. Like Lucas co-founded that.
Yes. So it was after the release of THX 1138, and it was like too experimental or whatever. It was Coppola who challenged Lucas, and he said, look, you got to make something that's more.
I said this last time.
Or sorry, he said something that was like, you got to make something with more mainstream appeal, and turned out to be American Graffiti. It's basically just a bunch of guys trying to relate to women, which is oddly enough probably George Lucas's most personal film he's ever made of trying to relate to women. So.
No, it's so
I mean,
crazy like how personal each of like those core characters are to the point to where like
oh yeah,
Richard Dreyfuss's character is literally dressed as the George Lucas we all know and love, right? And the flannel, the button-down flannel, like the hair, the way the hair is
yep,
styled. Like you can just
yeah.
picture him with glasses. Like 50 years later, that's George Lucas. You know, like
Oh, if you've ever seen pictures of them on set in where did they shoot Tatooine, Remington?
in Tunisia.
In Tunisia, like he's just dressed that way. Like he's always dressed that way. Um, but I mean, talking about the byline through the three movies. I mean, in the beginning when Richards, Curtis is talking about like, yeah, I might just stay another year. Like the way he's saying it, I'm just hearing Mark Hamill saying like, I was thinking that I can go to the academy this year. He's like, but I need you. You said you would go next season. Like I need you for the harvest. Like I'm just hearing that because it's so like it's the Lucas of it all, like the dialogue, like the delivery.
Well, yeah, and Luke and Anakin are
Lucas.
gearheads. Gee, I wonder why.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
and just to hook it all back to even what you mentioned earlier, Gene, and that's what was so kind of beautiful about watching this movie and making that realization of because I clocked that too. It was, and what is it, Modesto, California?
Modesto.
Yeah, and that's where George Lucas was from, and it was right. It was him being afraid of being stuck in this town, and the Richard Dreyfuss character, it's him that goes off and becomes a writer, and it's that like that fear of like, am I going to be stuck
living in Canada, which is great.
Yeah, am I going to be stuck in this town forever, or am I going to be able to spread my wings and go off and like it's the Modesto was George Lucas's Tatooine. So yeah, it was just so
The three characters, Milner, who's the like greaser kind of guy in the yellow car, Richard Dreyfuss's character, and also Toad. They all represent Lucas in like different phases of his life. So Toad is like high school era Lucas, where he's like, I was nerdy and awkward, and that's me. And then Dreyfuss represents Lucas when Lucas was like in film school, and kind of like dealing with all of those emotions. And then Milner, he represents Lucas when he was in community college or junior college as they called it then, where Lucas was
Car
like
accident.
was in his like street
car
illegal
accident
street
Lucas.
racing phase. And it's actually uncanny. Some of the behind the scenes material that I found shows pictures of Lucas from that era, and like he looks so much like the way they patterned John Milner to look like on Paul Le Mat. It's like really crazy because like I couldn't see it because I was just like, this is not the George Lucas I know. George Lucas is like local hardware store owner man, right? But like no, like early 20s, like 18, 19 George Lucas, he had the same like slicked black hair. He would like dress similar, it's uncanny how well they were able to like style and costume Paul Le Mat to fit that image.
Probably also had a 1935 Ford. So I can see it happening. Yeah. I actually didn't know that. I'm gonna have to find some of these pictures. But you said in the behind the scenes for the movie, they showed some of those pictures, or
They did.
Like-
I found some like behind the scenes materials online. And when they were going through it and they were talking about like Lucas was explaining how the three characters represent different phases of his life.
Okay.
And then they would also cut to like an interview with Paul Le Mat, and they would like show comparisons of the character and like a photo of Lucas from that time. And they also include like a clipping of the news article that was on Lucas's car crash, because it was like local news that like a bad car accident happened and a local kid almost died. So
Yeah. I almost wonder if the three fates of those characters are what three fates Lucas like maybe envisioned as possibilities for himself. Like, oh, if I keep up this racing, I'm gonna die in some way or another, through the car accident. For Terry, much like the fate of many young people in the 60s, like, oh, I could have ended up in Vietnam, just through the draft alone, or I don't know. I wonder if that was like subconscious or
bit.
intentional by him.
I
You
think it
know?
is a little bit because like Lucas is more like Lucas never lost his obsession with cars and like
No,
speed.
for sure.
You know, like you can see it throughout his films, and he's talked openly how like in the 80s and 90s when he was a little more established and obviously very wealthy and successful, he did consider going back to racing because he was like, I have the money, I can buy really quality cars and I can like hire the people to train me and I could do this as a hobby if I really wanted to. But he was like,
Yeah.
no, that could probably kill me and my children kind of need me because I'm basically a single
Yeah.
dad.
Yeah.
So he ultimately didn't, even though he never stopped owning cars and tinkering with cars on the side. So like I wouldn't be surprised if there was some reflection when he was writing how the character's end was going to be, but like he always had this thought in his mind, like, that was like a fork in the road moment for him. And like if he
Yeah.
kept doing it, like he shouldn't tempt fate in that way. In terms of the
Yeah.
other characters' fates, I also think that fits in with the broader vision that he had for the project. So like we can get into this further, but like his vision for this film is it's kind of meant to be sociological. So he's describing what he views as like he thinks setting it in 1962, other than the fact that's what the year that he graduated high school, he views that as a critical like turning point in American culture, where
Sure.
we're kind
Yeah.
of like it's like just before the Cuban Missile Crisis. It's pre-Kennedy assassination. It's pre-counterculture. There's still cultural holdovers from the 50s and all of that stuff. The
Yeah.
British invasion hasn't happened yet with the Beatles and such. You're still kind of dealing with all that wholesome culture. So it's kind of like detailing their fates in that way. It's kind of a way of showing like there was this zeitgeist, now it is lost, right? So this kid
Yeah.
who fit in so well with the zeitgeist of the 50s, he is emblematic in his haircut and in his dress. Well, what's happened now, we've switched and he's gone off to Vietnam and he's died, just as this
Yeah.
era has now in the switch died. It's no longer there.
Yeah.
And it kind of fits in with this. I know I'm going on for long,
No.
but one little interesting tidbit I discovered that didn't, one of Lucas's original ideas for the film that didn't survive the edit, is that his intention was for the mysterious blonde woman that Richard Dreyfuss's character spends the whole movie trying to track down. She's not real. She's just
Oh,
a
interesting.
ghost. And so kind of like how it's kind of like in that idea, it's kind of like saying how this lost era, it's also a ghost story. Like
Yeah.
these people died. They don't exist anymore, just as this era doesn't
Yeah.
exist anymore. And you can't go back and replicate it. And it fits even
Yeah.
with the production, right? Lucas wanted to film in Modesto and couldn't because he found that the city changed too much in the course
Changed
of a
so
decade.
much in 10 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it truly is lost and it truly is ghostly. Which is another reason why the ending works so good. Like, oh my God.
Wait, Dan, do you want to go? Because I had to
No,
jump off what you just said.
Yeah, I wanted to jump off of that too. Yeah, it's I kind of had like a similar read on the ending and everything. Basically the same thing, but I kind of read it as broader, like kind of what happened to this generation and the gut punch of after we're like these people were like thrust into war and basically sent to the meat grinder in Vietnam, and that's it. It kind of it kind of almost felt to me of almost like anti-nostalgia, because that's what a lot of this movie is like just basking in nostalgia of like the 60s, and like you can't live in that forever. And that actually kind of what I think the car crash at the end was kind of saying to me was like, you can't, because they're just literally in their fucking cars the entire, like just driving around, and it's almost like they're just spinning their wheels, like living in this nostalgia, like this night. By the way, funny enough too, this is also at one point when the guys outside, this movie made me laugh a lot. This movie was very funny. When he's standing outside the liquor store and he asks a guy, what time is it? And he goes 11:45. I'm like, it's like halfway through the movie. I'm like, how long does this night go for? Like, people are driving around
Forever, Dan.
Yeah. So
it's the last day of summer and it's never gonna end, Daniel.
So I kind of read it as like, you can't, like, and it ends in a literal car crash. Like, you can't live in this forever. Like, it's going to go away. So that's kind of how I read it. But yeah, similar read. But no, yeah. What about you, Gene?
Yeah.
That's a great take, because like this movie that kind of like invents the nostalgia movie is also ironically saying like you can't do that. You have to grow up. You have to move on. You have
Yeah.
to pick yourself up from the car wreck and
Yeah.
make something of yourself. You've been given this lease on life. You have to move forward. And that's not what the nostalgia movies of today are doing. No, they want you to stay nostalgic so they can keep making money off of it.
And it kind of is and like what you
Number
said,
berries.
and I didn't read that about the girl being a ghost, or like you could even say that to like to an idea of like brilliant, like what was winning me over so much with this movie, the whole thing with the scene with the Wolfman, the radio DJ, and how kind
that
of like
scene is so
Wolfman
good.
Jack.
oh, so
I
good.
love
Before we get into
Wolfman
Wolfman Jack, let's
so
let
good.
Gene make his point, because I have
Yes.
so much to say
Sorry,
about
yeah.
Wolfman Jack.
All I
No,
was-
just to so
Sorry, all I was gonna say
Dan.
before. Sorry, I'm so sorry. All I was gonna say was, it's kind of like just this idea of yes, like we're living, but also kind of like you were saying with the ghosts, like like was this as great as we're remembering it, or how much of this was just us putting on our rose-colored nostalgia glasses? And I don't know.
Sure,
I just so much of that going on there, but yeah, sorry, go ahead, Gene.
Yeah. No, is it in the beginning? Is it Steven or Milner? When Kurt is talking about how he might stay, like one of them says like you do have to grow up. You can't be you're not 17 forever. Like one of them off the bat says that. And it's something I really liked about Milner's character. Do they say is he their age, or is he like the older guy? Like I don't know
He's
if I
older.
caught. He is older,
he
right?
graduated a couple years before. He is older. He's
Okay,
kind of like
that's
the
what I
akin of
figured.
like the guy you see around Ellenville who didn't go to college and is like in the public house all the time.
Yeah.
And
Like,
it's
I
kind
got
of
the-
like
I
maybe
got the-
works at
yeah.
Walmart. Like
Like I got the vibes of like, oh, McConaughey's character and Confused is just this guy. Okay, I get it. Like, but I could talk about Milner for fucking ever, but I was actually very pleasantly surprised at his character development and how like he's one of the only ones who kind of has a maturity to him, and like with the 12-year-old, he's just kind of like, no, you were too young for me. Like you, like this is weird. And when he races Harrison Ford for the first time, and he's like, oh yeah, he's good, but he's dumb. Like he's not like he's kind of reckless. Anyway, but yeah, all the nostalgia stuff. That's what I love about these kind of movies. It gives me that feeling of like gosh, that feeling of like that nostalgia for things you've never experienced and never will experience. And
I was
like
born in
you
the
were talking-
wrong generation.
No, not I'm a brown man. I was not. No, like, it's a really good transition movie too, like eras wise. Like, it's set in 1962, but there's still it's very like what we think of as the 50s, right? It's all the 30s and 40s, vehicles, and with the drive-in, the diner, whatever, and like the waitresses on roller skates. The soundtrack's all like rock, rock and roll and surf rock, and but it's like it's very firmly planted like this is the last night of this, because everything's gonna be so different. Like Remington said, Kennedy's gonna get assassinated. We're gonna have this era of assassination.
Literally 2 months after the movie is the Cuban Missile Crisis.
Yeah, all this like distress, like all the hippie movement, the counterculture, and like so it's very much like this is the last year of that Americana post-war boom. And then it's all just going to be Vietnam and Cold War. And I think Lucas does that very, very well. It has a really nice gloss, like what is it? The sock hop. That's such a cool scene. Like that doesn't exist anymore. Like everything in this movie just doesn't exist anymore. I mean, the cruising is not a fucking thing anymore. I looked up why, because it just became illegal. You're not gonna have women on rollerblades anymore, because that's a fucking legal liability for any restaurant.
Well, if you go to Sonic, you can sometimes get that experience depending on the Sonic that you're going.
Where the hell is there a Sonic, Remington?
There are Sonics. I think there's a Sonic
No,
in
there aren't.
Kingston, isn't there?
No, there wasn't. It closed forever ago. Closed like 10 years ago.
Oh.
And there's
Okay.
nothing in its
Well, I don't know.
place. It's just an abandoned building.
Nothing ever replaced it, dude. They still have like the what is it, the arch from like with the booths, like they're still there. Last time I was there, like, dude, it's
Let's get a booth.
it's very whatever, what I'm talking about. But yeah, it's such a like a bygone era that's just never gonna happen again. And that's the thing that Lucas like captures that so well.
What do you?
Just to jump off what Gene said before, can I just say how relieved I am at how shockingly not rapey this film is, given the
Dude, right?
given the
Dude,
era
right?
in which it's from and the subject matter in which it has. Like these young
Dude.
men display such
Oh my
knowledge
God.
of like affirmative
Oh my
consent
God.
that would like
Oh my
baffle
God, yeah.
these incels like several times
Which-
over. Like,
which,
oh
by
my
the way-
God, woke George Lucas much?
No, Steven was like the only one who's like even kind of close to being like a shitty guy at times, but like the whole Milner parts, I'm like, oh no, is this gonna be like bad? Like what is that? And then it's just not. And I was like, holy shit.
No, it was
kudos
very
to George
tasteful. The
Lucas.
entire time he was like,
I'm like,
you're too
kudos to
young.
George
I need to get you
Lucas."
back. Yes.
And by the
And
way,
then listen, what's up?
sorry, go
No,
ahead.
no, even the scene where even when when you get to the point where he's just like, like I've wanted you all night, like immediately you're just like, oh, I know what he's doing. Like it's presented so well of like, oh, like I can tell that he's just doing this to get her to take her home. Like he's not actually serious. Like it's so fucking well done. Like yeah, like as you said, it could have been much worse because of like the era when it was made and that represents and oh my God.
Or even Ron Howard and Cindy Williams' character, right? Like they were getting a little hot and heavy in the car and he wanted it and she didn't, and he realized, oh, she's not enthusiastic about this. I should pull back.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have affirmative consent. Affirmative consent has entered the building. Like
which by the way, only supports my thesis even more, is that they are looking back on this with some rose-colored glasses because, yeah, all those scenes would have been way different. No, I was like,
no, Lucas could have had some good friends. I don't know.
yeah, debatable. But no, it was so funny, like, when the girl got in the car, because when it's like, oh, my friend in the back who we can't see will join you, I'm like, oh, the joke is she's gonna be some like, for lack of a better term, ugly girl.
That's what I thought. That's what I thought.
Right, and then it's like, oh, it's a child, and I'm like, oh, this is what we're doing, and then it's like, it's literally.
Oh, Dan, and did you notice? Like, it's an actual child. She was like 12 when she shot this.
Yeah, and it was actually subversive when he goes, wait a minute, how old are you? And I'm like, excuse me?
Yeah.
What? Isn't it the 60s? I mean, like, what?
contrast this with like any John Hughes movie from like a decade later, and it's like shockingly surprising how not rapey this movie is. Like take any scene in like Weird Science, any scene in like 16 Candles, like
That's
all
what-
these movies, they got some real fucked up bits in them, and it's like, no, woke George Lucas, he was ahead of the curve.
It made me
he
laugh.
was. Yeah, he fucking was. I mean, Remington, even just like I found like the way the female characters, like they were all like pretty strong like characters whose whole like they're constantly talking back to the dudes and telling them to shut the hell up and like fucking with them. Like I thought that was really well done.
Influenced by like screwball comedies from the 40s, and that's what screwball comedies are, right? The classic setup of like the kind of like headstrong, confident woman and like the kind of like ridiculous man like bumbling after her, so to speak. Like that's where that comes from. But we wokes, like we took that from you. So like these chuds wouldn't know art if they hit them to it. Like the idea of a screwball comedy would just go right over their heads, but it's like older than like some of their grandparents,
Did any of you guys?
We wokes.
Did you? Did any of you guys? Yeah. Speaking of the strong women characters, did anyone find it weird in that one scene in the car with Toad and the girl when she starts saying like, or he starts saying like, all the senators just need to sit down and talk about the problem, and she's like, well, that's what we do, but sometimes don't always agree. And he's like, well, someone should make them agree. And she's like, well, doesn't that sound like a dictator? And he's like, well, if it works. And then she goes, no, that's bad. And then she leaves him for good. Oh, wait, that's not what happened. I thought that scene was a little on the nose, but
Actually, to jump off of that, I was actually struck, and this might get us back into Wolfman Jack territory, how you can see prototypes for Star Wars characters in this movie, right? Like, because if you think about it, like, in a way, Milner is kind of like proto Han Solo.
how
right?
is he? Yeah,
He's like Yeah, he's like kind of like a cocky dude who has this like iconic vehicle that everyone thinks is junk, but he's like, no, it's a classic. Like, like, and he's like driving around, he's getting into fights, like like he is kind of proto Han Solo.
Yeah.
And then also to maybe get us back into Wolfman Jack territory, the Wolfman Jack character played by the real Wolfman Jack, he is proto Ben Kenobi. You know what I mean? Like he does a whole like little identity game where in this movie, Wolfman Jack, he's telling Richard Dreyfuss he's not Wolfman Jack. He's just some dude that works for Wolfman Jack, and he manages to sprinkle in a little bit of advice. Well, this idea comes back in Star Wars, right? Where it's like Obi-Wan Kenobi. Obi-Wan. Now that's a name I haven't heard in a long time. Well, do you know him? Is he dead? Oh, he's not dead. Not yet. Like it's a recurring idea, and so it's interesting to see these like how Lucas's writing developed over the course of the 70s, and he returned and fleshed out these ideas. And as the jumping off point, yes, I fucking love that Wolfman Jack scene. It was so fucking good.
I just love all the Wolfman Jack, like all his all the little radio pieces. Like I love the random like radio sounds that are going on, like as they're driving around, like just random things like women screaming and these random sound bites, which apparently were all real. I thought they were like
they're real
like, for the movie. No, but I thought like it was just like they put him in a booth and he just like started recording shit. No,
they're real. Yeah,
actual conversations we had with people throughout his like recording career, which is incredible.
Because Lucas wanted to do a Wolfman Jack documentary before he like had any legs of doing any projects, but he couldn't make it happen, and so he abandoned the idea. But when he was making American Graffiti, he was like, I bet you I could get Wolfman Jack in on this bitch, but because he grew up with Wolfman Jack and he greatly admired him and was fascinated by him, which made him want to do the doc. And so the idea was by like having those like episodes, those like snippets of episodes show up at different points in the movie is to drive home the point that it's like an ambient part of like the soundtrack of life that's part of that zeitgeist, like it would just be running in the background. Nowadays it would be like a Joe Rogan episode or something, but like like it's the same idea where like this like omnipotent figure in the lives of these young people is his voice is just like constantly chattering above them and around them, and they're inspired by them and take direction from him, which is why Richard Dreyfuss is running to the radio tower to try and get a message out through Wolfman Jack. And so like from that idea with the sound design and the soundtrack to that whole scene in the radio tower, just really excellent concept through and through.
And yeah, and that's why I just where this movie was just winning me over so hard for a couple of reasons. Like it was so subversive from what I thought it was going to be in like the opening 20 minutes, where I was like, I'm telling you, I was sitting there rolling my eyes like, oh god, I'm gonna not like this. This is gonna be just another. But yeah, it's a hangout movie that kind of like stumbles into. It doesn't move the plot forward. It kind of just stumbles into like he just literally stumbles into like the radio station trying to get this girl to call him, and he ends up getting like this very wise moment from this, like you said, like you like very well said, like this voice that's like omnipresent in their lives and in this culture. So I couldn't believe how great it all just came together for me, like and I it's funny, I kind of saw it as like almost like a Wizard of Oz, like the man behind the curtain type of thing with Wolfman Jack. It was kind of like, again, like they're just telling themselves this is like a real thing, but it's kind of getting to that, like they're getting thrust into like the cruel reality, and like they couldn't live, they only could live in this world for one more night. Fuck it, this movie does fucking rule.
No, it's so good.
Dan, I wonder if like your expectation and my expectation in a way where it's like it would have been like the characters and everything would have been worse is like I don't know what's like if it's influenced because we've watched Dazed and Confused, where the characters are all kind of terrible.
Well,
So we expect that now, even though this movie came first.
what I thought it was gonna be was I thought that the movie was gonna focus way harder on Ron Howard and Richard Dreyfuss's character like together. And I
Okay.
thought, what was it? Is
Okay.
it Milton? Who's the older kid? Is it Milton?
Milner.
Milner. I thought
Milner.
Milner and Toad were going to be much more side characters, but I feel like
Okay. Yeah.
Milner and Toad almost had more screen time than Ron Howard.
Yeah. I mean, it follows the four of them.
It
follows
does,
the four of them. That's
but
the point.
Maybe it was just my experience watching the movie. It almost felt like it was setting up Ron Howard to be like the main guy, and I feel like
I can see that.
I feel like we don't really like. I felt like
Because
Ron
he's
Howard.
not a Lucas stand-in. He's just like a
Yeah.
side. He's actually a side character. Like in Lucas's development of the story, it's just more like I think like you would have known who you wouldn't have. He wasn't super famous at that point, but you would have maybe known who Ron Howard was. Because he was literally a child actor. He was a
Right.
successful child actor in the 50s, doing what was it? What was the name of that show? Andy Griffith. There we
Andy
go.
Griffith
Yes,
Show.
he was.
Andy Griffith Show,
Yes, he was doing the Andy Griffith Show where he was Opie, like the little boy.
Yeah, he was.
And so he was. So in this era, he was trying to pivot into doing like adult roles,
Yep.
basically. And this movie kind of launched his career because the rest of the 70s, he
literally did. Yeah.
like in the 70s he did several more serious adult films while doing Happy Days on TV, and then eventually he pivoted into being a director in the 80s, where he directed like Willow, which was another George Lucas creation. He wrote Willow, and he also directed like Cocoon, and later would go on to win an Oscar when he did A Beautiful Mind.
Howard has a very extensive career. He's the narrator.
He's an American
for Arrested
icon.
Development.
No, he's literally an American
Yeah.
icon.
I mean, same with Dreyfuss Remington. Dreyfuss, this movie kind of launched like a string of movies where he's like the leading man throughout the 70s.
Well, Richard Dreyfuss, great actor. Not a good person.
Wasn't he like on stage a few years ago? Wasn't that the clip of him like he just went off about trans people to a whole crowd that started booing him?
No,
or
he got in
something?
trouble like last year or 2 years ago. He was like at a Q&A and he just started ranting about like trans people and like how the wokes have gone too far. Like, yeah, he's a
J.K.
massive
Rowling, give him a call real
chud.
quick.
Also, his son Ben Dreyfuss is a colossal dumbass, and I think he should be banned from Twitter forever. These are just my hot takes, but yeah, great actor, not a good dude. But you know, that it'd be like that sometimes. Ron Howard, cultural icon. He raised his daughter to figure out who the real Agent Argyle was, you know? Like not every man can do that.
Dan, like you were talking about, Ron Howard's character too, and I got the same vibe from the start. Like he gives you traditional protagonists in these movies. He's the skinny, attractive, you know, like he's not blonde, but you know, like he's kind of like redhead, right? Yeah, I've seen his daughter. Looks like he's redhead.
It's great screen presence as an actor too.
Yeah,
Which probably speaks to his
so good.
success as an entertainer. You
No,
know,
but but like, I mean, he's a good actor too. You could, like, even by then, like, you can tell he'd been doing it for a long time. But you know, like, attractive. You know, he's got that killer jawline. You know, he's the one with the girlfriend. It's the setup, right? Like, oh, I'm gonna leave for college, you know, and like this is our last night together. It's a very classic setup. But then the movie, I guess, also pivots and it's like, no, we're gonna follow all four of these guys. They could easily have framed a movie where it's really centered on Howard's character and everyone else is kind of like ancillary. We don't follow them as much.
Hop
It doesn't do
scene,
that.
that
So
sock
good.
hop scene, him and Cindy Williams' character, that's so good. Like even the dancing aside,
So good.
like
Oh yeah, that was great.
the whole bit where they're like they're doing the slow dance together because they Cindy Williams' character, Laurie Henderson, I think her name is actually Laurie Henderson.
Yeah.
She just won I think it's like
She's head
homecoming
cheerleader.
queen or something like that, or
Yeah, she's like head cheerleader.
they're recognizing her basically, and so they're dancing together and they're having that like whole exchange, and she gives this like monologue about how like it's like, oh, you really don't remember anything, do you? Like I was the one that asked you out, I was the one that kissed you, you know, like and now you're like acting like a big hot shot. Apparently, this monologue has some staying. It was not in my theater circles, but I looked up online. Like a lot of people have done like auditions with this monologue, and
Oh.
like have it in their portfolio of things they can do, like hustling actors, I guess. And
Hmm.
so like that whole sequence really worked for me. I found it like so mesmerizing the way the camera would like cut around them while they were dancing,
Yeah.
and Cindy Williams' performance while she's delivering the monologue is so good, and the way they kind of like get re-lost back into one another, and like start falling a bit back in love until they get interrupted again. Like it's really good. And this scene in particular made me think, and a lot of people have this like common reaction when they realize how well written this movie is actually. It's like, oh god, we're praising George Lucas's writing.
Well,
Like George Lucas wrote a successful romance scene.
He lost the sauce at one point. You know what? It happens to the best of us.
I mean, there's
I
yeah,
think.
that's one of the greatest or just the most fascinating thing about this movie is where you're like, wait a minute, this is the George Lucas we could have had, you know?
I
And
think the difference is like this is grounded, right? Like this is a
right.
real thing that really
Yeah.
happened with real human emotions and experiences. Whereas like where you could argue maybe his writing took so many left turns is like Star Wars is all made up, right? So like a lot of the
He
dialogue
wasn't
is
on Naboo.
it's like so exposition heavy, and that's like the problem that a lot of actors have with. And that's the problem a lot of critics have it, where like he spends so much time like explaining things, and it all becomes like super wooden, and actors have to find a way to like get through it all. And also like his chief direction is just like faster, more intense, and it's just like, and it really, you either like sink or swim, and great and like classically trained actors like Alec Guinness can make lines like he's more machine now than man, twisted and evil, something garbage like that sound fucking badass and cool. Whereas like someone like Hayden Christensen, who was a fairly young actor, a fairly new actor, can't make things like that work, where it's like I wish I could just wish my feelings away, like he doesn't have that strength. But so it's one of those
Yeah.
things where I think maybe if he pursued more
You
grounded projects, he wouldn't have had that issue, perhaps.
you see it with Christopher Lee too in the prequels. Like he's just an incredibly classically trained actor, and he's making these lines sound incredible.
uh
Yeah.
yeah, no, it's funny. One of the last notes I have on like just mainly the production and everything around this movie was, to this day in interviews, Coppola will still say like it is like one of the biggest modern day Greek tragedies of what happened to George Lucas. And how Star Wars just completely consumed him. He got so into
Yeah.
the technology, and
Yeah.
watching this movie, I was like jaw on the floor, thinking to myself, "This is what could have been. This is what could
Yeah.
have been." And we
I
still
mean,
got
maybe
Star.
he also.
We still got the original Star Wars trilogy, but it's wild
I
to
don't know,
think.
But
maybe.
he doesn't have to. It doesn't have to go that way. So like one thing is he didn't direct it, but the other movie that he had in the barrel at the same time period was a little movie called Radioland
Indiana,
Murders,
yeah.
which
I
he
thought it was
wrote,
Israel.
and it was also a passion project. He desperately tried to get out there for years and couldn't do it until finally in the 90s he felt the technology was there that he could produce it much cheaper than you could have in the 70s and 80s when you would have had to be mostly practical. And he just had someone else direct it, but he still wrote it, and people hated that movie. Hated it so much.
Wait,
And
which
the only
movie?
reason we
Which
care
movie?
about it, Radioland Murders.
I've
I've
heard
never heard
this
of this.
story.
Okay.
Yeah, actually, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the only reason we care about this movie is it's technically an important stepping stone in the development of like visual effects, because the advancements they made in making that movie later were like how he could do the prequels, and that's like a whole important thing for defining visual effects work in this century. So like yeah, so like it doesn't have to necessarily always turn out good if he just took the other direction, because he could have wound up doing Radioland Murders, and people would have hated that. So you never
I
know.
mean,
But I
he
do take
also
your
had.
point, Dan, because he's with Star Wars. all of his friends were like, "Why are you doing this genre thing? Why are you doing this like weird blockbuster thing? Like you're the most innovative, the most experimental of us all. Why are you allowing this to consume yourself?" And then he did, and then he was so burnt out that he didn't direct anything for another 20 years. He just became like probably one of
Yeah.
the most successful producers of all time. And
Yeah.
through the in the 80s and most of the 90s, and then he did the prequels, and everyone hated the prequels so much that he didn't want to direct ever again. Like the last movie, well, that's not fair. So like the last time he really wrote two things after the prequels.
Was it Red
He wrote
Tails? Was it Red
uh,
Tails?
well, Red Tails, he has a story treatment. I don't think he didn't write the screenplay. But he
Oh, okay.
wrote Crystal Skull, right? He teamed back up with Spielberg to do Crystal Skull. He did do Red Tails. Red Tails came from an idea of his he had like the 80s, I think, when he like went to like a museum of like African American aviators or some exhibit he saw that inspired him to
Yeah.
do that story, and fought for years to get that movie out there, and finally he did. And then he also wrote Strange Magic, which was like this critically panned animated movie from like 2015, right? But he never directed again. Never directed again and never will, because he sold the company and he's like, I'm done with all of this and I'm just going to make small private films for me and my friends. Um,
Yeah.
so it is a tragedy.
No, yeah, that is a good point. That is a good point. It's funny, like, yeah, you just picture, right, the alternative timeline would have panned out, or this timeline would have panned out anyway. He would have sat down in Jurassic Park and like for the first time and been like, oh, holy shit, you see what Steven did with those fucking dinosaurs? It's finally there. It's
Wait, hold on. I mean,
think I'm gonna make
he
the
also.
prequels
I mean,
now.
he did have.
What hey,
He did have Raiders.
Steven,
He did have.
Steven, drunk at a bar. Steven, 2 words. Jar Jar. What? Jar Jar. Anyway,
Well,
sorry.
ILM did the effects for Jurassic Park. I know you're just meaning,
right.
but
Yeah.
Yeah, they did.
Sorry, what were we saying, Gene?
I mean, he did have Raiders in like his back pocket, basically, and Remington has told me about this too. He was heavily involved in the Young Indiana Jones stuff, right? He like wrote the whole like extensive backstory on Indy.
Yeah, no, that came from Lucas.
You know.
He wrote
Yeah.
he wrote a lot of like all like the Bible, that show's Bible. Like he wrote like an extensive
Yeah.
backstory that basically created a biography for Indy for like 100 years of his life, essentially.
Yeah.
And that was the basis for all of those episodes, because Last Crusade was so successful. He was like, oh, Last Crusade kind of opens up with like a young Indiana Jones. There could be like a story here. And he actually offered the part of young Indiana Jones to River Phoenix, who plays him in the movie.
Yeah.
And River Phoenix turned
Yeah.
it down infamously, which is why they went in the direction they did. But yeah, he that show too is also really important in the development of the technology that would eventually make the prequels. Like that they experimented a lot with the making of those episodes because they wanted them to feel like movies almost, even though they were episodes of television. And this kind of is also important because it precedes the prestige TV era, so it kind of like invents the
Yeah.
idea of TV as movie. And so yeah, George Lucas, crazy motherfucker.
Oh my
Always
god.
ahead of his time, basically. He's just ahead of his time, constantly a
He
visionary.
created Pixar. Did you know that?
Yes,
like,
I did know that.
Wasn't
Pixar
that
comes
wasn't that
from a
Steve
division of-
Jobs?
Yes and no.
As
So Pixar
well,
started
kinda.
as the computer division of Lucasfilm. He was literally
Oh.
Lucas saw that computer graphics were advancing in such a way this could have a profound impact on film technology, and so he started to invest heavily in computers through Lucasfilm. And he started like literally they would go around to like computer science programs in different universities across the country and hire up and coming talent. And he was like, I want you to make the first totally CGI film. I want you to do that. And he invested in it, but over time he found there was like a weird tension between the computer division and like all of the ILM old hands who were like, we make models, we do stop motion, we do all this practical stuff, but their computers didn't really fit. And so he was like, all right, I still see your vision, you're still doing great stuff in the computer division, why don't I find you a new home? And so he sold it to Jobs, and that's how it became Pixar. But the name Pixar literally comes from the computer they invented while employed for Lucas, called the Pixar computer. And it was that
Interesting.
computer that created Toy Story eventually, so
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. He's a visionary. He's ahead of the game.
Yeah, there's a great documentary. Actually, I believe it or not, it was a Disney Plus original from a few years ago. It was like about the history of Pixar, which is or like the origins of Pixar. Such an interesting time period.
I never watched it, but I've watched the Make of Any Hope one like 5 times because it's so good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, God, we could get lost in Lucas for forever. I want to get in a little bit to just like the different storylines of the movie. So I'll start off with a hot take. Funny because so I just have this idea in my head, and maybe this is why originally I was like, oh, this fucking movie. I don't think Ron Howard's that special.
Oh my God, Remington and I were just gushing about him. Remington and I are sitting here gushing about him.
Now, to be fair,
Remington's like he's an American
Coming
icon.
to my house
Dan
and
is
give
like-
me this disrespect.
To be fair, I've never seen A Beautiful Mind. That was the big one that I have to see.
You never seen Apollo 13?
Have I? I don't think
you have, Dan.
I haven't seen, honestly, to be fair, I haven't seen a lot of his movies. But I just always had this idea.
You seen Arrested Development? He's the narrator.
Yeah,
He's objectively one of the best parts of Arrested Development.
Dan, have you really never watched Arrested Development? Oh
No.
my God, Dan! Just the first 3 seasons, all you have to watch.
But it's just, I always just had this idea in my head of like Ron Howard is like the most successful, like mediocre director ever. Like, I don't know. That's always,
oh my God,
that's always
this
the image of
guy.
him. But that just to be
This
fair,
fucking guy.
I always just, whenever I hear like the term journeyman director, I'm like, oh, like director for hire. I'm like, oh, like Ron Howard. Like that's always the first thing that comes into my mind. But I'm so biased because I haven't seen many of his movies. I don't know why I have that impression of him. So I'm probably way off base. And I don't know. But yeah, and then I always knew like he was an actor turned director, and then I'm like, has he even really been in anything that good as an actor? Like in my head, I was like,
You hating on The Shootist? You ain't seen The Shootist?
no, I don't.
I mean, he's also a very successful like TV actor, Dan.
The Shootist? That's like probably
He's
one
on
of the
2.
best John Wayne movies there is.
I
Like,
love The
Shootist-
Grinch.
Remington. Besides that, he's been on 2 incredibly successful like tentpoles of American TV history.
Which ones?
Happy
Other than
Days,
Arrested Development?
The Andy
Oh.
Griffith Show.
Yeah,
Oh, how long?
like Dan, come on.
What have you done for me lately?
He gave us
He
Hillbilly
created-
Elephant, basically.
He created
of
Bryce Dallas
Elton
Howard, who
now,
directs
because-
great episodes of Mandalorian. I don't know.
I do like Bryce Dallas
He gave
Howard.
the world Bryce. Yeah, he gave it. Who else could father the person who figured out who the real Agent Argyle was? I submit to you, no one else could have.
I counter, sir, with 2 words: Sofia Coppola, and famously gave a great performance in Godfather 3.
My favorite Sofia Coppola performance was her cameo in The Phantom Menace. That was my favorite Sofia Coppola performance.
Who does she
Oh, that's
cameo as in
right.
Phantom Menace?
She's one of the handmaidens.
She's one of the handmaidens. Yeah, it's blink and you miss it. You can't tell, but she is one of the handmaidens, and that's a expert Cine2 Nerdle play, my friends. If you ever get on that. Actually, another fun fact about Sofia Coppola that's on brand is that George Lucas was there the day that she was born.
That sounds about right. Yep.
Yeah, I don't know if he was in the hospital, but he was literally staying at their house. He was like in town, like where they were living, where the Coppolas were living. And like Francis was like, yeah, you can sleep on my couch. That's cool. And then like literally Eleanor went into labor like that day. And like if you do the math, it's like, oh, that's Sofia Coppola. He was there when Sofia Coppola was came
I'm
into the
just
world.
picturing like Francis Ford going like, yeah, just sleep on the couch, and his wife's like, I'm about to fucking burst.
His
like
9-month
this
pregnant
grunt,
wife.
It's like on the couch, like, bitch, what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see. George Lucas, Steven Spielberg, Coppola, Scorsese, all known for having very healthy relationships with marriages over the years. Like, definitely didn't
I know
influence
Lucas, and
all
I
of their
know-
art.
And I know Scorsese. I don't know much about Coppola's.
I don't don't know.
personal life.
Actually,
Oh,
I
no,
know.
no. Coppola actually had a good marriage. Didn't she die recently? And it was like a big, like,
Yeah.
it was a big.
And there's like an emporium in Megalopolis for her. In fact, actually, a lot of what Megalopolis is partly about is kind of like dealing with the loss of your wife. But I do think there's like revelations that he was like cheating on her a lot, but like they did literally stay together for decades and have like a long history. So
Yes.
like you know, could be worse. But like if you watch some of like Sofia Coppola's movies, which are like partly reflections on her upbringing, it's like, oh yeah, she knows some tea about her dad, doesn't she? Like,
that's her entire career. That's the whole thing.
Yeah.
That's the whole shtick about Sofia Coppola is every movie is about being the daughter of like a successful or like being in the presence of a successful, you know, being a nepo baby, basically. That's like her whole thesis of everything.
It's so hard getting to run away to Japan and not know what to do, but have the money to be able to figure it out. It's so hard.
I loved Lost in Translation. But
oh, it's a great movie. I'm just
no, I know.
kidding around.
So one of the big things that really drew me into this movie and really subverted my expectations was how much Milford, what is it again?
Milner
Milner and Toad were basically the best parts of the movie to me. Or no, Richard Dreyfuss had a really good story too, but I just was so pleased that, oh wow, these guys are like two of the best characters in my opinion. But yeah, everything with Milner, everything with Toad,
which is crazy because of all the actors, it was Candy Clark who plays I forget her name, but she's the girl who's with Toad the whole time. She's the only one that got an Oscar nom. She got a supporting Oscar nomination for that, and I didn't get to look into why that was, like how that was able to happen, but that's another example of, you know, we clown on George Lucas now, but that's an example of him successfully directing and writing a young actor to an Oscar nomination.
Yeah, it's so wild. What was I gonna say? And it was so funny watching that movie because I was able to do so much like research on the behind the scenes, and yeah, you watch this movie that you know Harrison Ford is in, but you watch it, and if you didn't know, like if you saw American Graffiti and then read the script for Star Wars, you would watch that movie and go, oh yeah, Milford or whatever the fuck his name is that's Harris, that's Han Solo. Like that's your Han Solo right there. And you're like, wait a minute. No, Han Solo is the guy in the car with the cowboy hat. Like it's so crazy. I know like I said, that guy was in the running to play Han Solo. It was like that would have been your Han Solo. But it's funny how I did read as well that I know Lucas didn't want to use he didn't want to reuse any actors from American Graffiti. Can we address this too? Sorry, I feel like we keep getting off of the movie, but do you remember?
This is talking about the movie.
Yeah.
We don't have to just recap the plot every single time.
No, I know. It's so rich with like the backstory. But did you guys hear this growing up as a kid, like reading Star Wars lore? But I'm so sick of like, I always used to hear this, and it was such a fucking lie there's some truth to it, but you always read like, oh, did you know that Harrison Ford was just a carpenter working on like during the auditions of Star Wars, and he's like, they always would talk about it as if he never acted before, or he like was just there like building a table, hammering, and then George was like, hey, you read some lines, like I've never met you before. Like that was always the mythology that I felt like I was told as a kid. But no, like he was a carpenter and he was doing that on the side to supplement.
He was a working actor.
Did you guys ever hear it like that? Do you guys ever?
I've like that Ford like, was like an unknown,
he's in American
kind
Graffiti.
of struggling.
Yeah, like
he also was in The Conversation.
Yes, which I just watched.
An amazing
recently.
Coppola movie.
Yes, I just watched
also
it. Also
precedes Star Wars.
Yeah, I'm like, wait a minute, what the fuck? Like, he was an actor, you idiots. Like, yeah, I just always remember hearing that as a kid, like this mythology of like he was just hammering away and like on the working on the Death Star, and then like George was like, you read the lines. Like, no, that's not how it went at all. But I was so mad thinking about watching this in the movie. Also, fun fact.
Yeah, it is funny how Harrison
Yeah.
Ford like bounced around like Lucas and Coppola projects for like much of the 70s and 80s, right? Because he's doing like The Conversation, then he's doing American Graffiti, and then he's doing Star Wars, and then he's doing Apocalypse Now, and then he's doing Indiana Jones. You know, like it's kind of funny how he stayed in like that whole loop, and like he, to his chagrin, gained great fame and money from it, because he's like, I hate Star Wars, I don't want to go back to Star Wars, but like the money calls, you know, like, and this is what he's known for and why he's celebrated as a cultural icon to these days. Sorry to interrupt you, Dan.
No, yeah, it really is with him. It's kind of like, I mean, obviously he was born with like movie star looks, but it really is like kind of right place at the right time kind of almost thing too, you know, just happened to get in bed with these guys at the right time, and like, holy shit. Funny he never worked with Scorsese. But I mean, I guess, was he
Interesting.
well, obviously Spielberg, Indiana Jones, but yeah, no, interesting career. And I always, whenever I watch Apocalypse Now, I always say to myself, wait a minute, Harrison Ford was in this too. But yeah.
Not only is he in Apocalypse Now, his character is Colonel. Sorry, is it Colonel or is it? It's either Colonel or Captain G. Lucas.
Oh, I do remember that. Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah, because George Lucas was originally supposed to direct Apocalypse Now, but he had to
Right.
back out so he could do Star Wars, which is why Francis Ford Coppola took it over. But Coppola kept that character in and named him after Lucas as a fun little nod to his friend.
Speaking of fun little nods, did you guys catch Milner's license plate in the movie?
THX 1138. Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
just one. Yeah,
Or-
it was just 138. But yeah,
Yeah, 138.
Yeah.
Yeah.
that was fun.
I was like waiting at one point for like, I kept thinking in my head, like, is this guy just gonna, when he's stopping and like talking to someone and someone goes, oh, that's a piece of junk car, and he goes to the cop, he goes, officer, this is the car that made the Kessel run in less than 12 parts. I mean, this car's a classic. You know, sorry, Gene, what were you gonna say?
I don't know, but like I don't think anyone says his car's a piece of junk. They just keep talking about how he's the best like racer in the valley. His car's just old, but like it's like modern.
Yeah, they call it old, and they think it's weird that it's like the front is like that. Because like unless you're into like racing, you don't necessarily recognize like why he has it modded like that.
Yeah.
So they're like, what the fuck is wrong with your
Yeah.
car? And also they make fun of the color, the paint job.
Yeah, the piss yellow. Yeah, it's a 1935 Ford Coupe, but yeah. I was quick reading about this. I didn't realize that the theatrical release has 3 cut scenes. I don't know if you guys read about that.
No.
Yes, I did. But like
Um,
all available versions nowadays are like have them back.
Yeah. So Dan, this is the scene where Toad kind of stops for a second. That car salesman tries to like sell him a car. Steve and the teacher at the sock hop having a little argument. The teacher's trying to like suspend him, and he's like, "I graduated last semester." And then when Laurie's in the car with Harrison Ford, and he's kind of like singing that song.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's a result of the studio shenanigans and them trying to mess with the vision. How did you guys watch the movie, by the way? Did you guys rent it? Did you guys find it on streaming?
It was
Rented
on
it.
streaming.
Yeah, it was on Peacock. Surprisingly, that was
Oh, what
pretty
the
nice.
fuck? I
Yeah.
rented it on YouTube. Damn it!
Yeah,
No, it
it's
was
on
on
Peacock.
It was on Peacock. Yeah.
Oh, Just Watch
Yeah.
didn't tell me
Dan, you
that.
rented it?
Yeah. God damn it.
Dude, I always Google real quick before we watch one of these. I just Google like, let me see if this is on streaming real quick. And
No,
if
I
it's
have an
not, then
app.
if it's not, then I will rent it legally on the internet. Otherwise, I just find I just Google. Literally, my first Google hit was like Peacock, and I was like, all right, cool, I have that.
Yeah. No, what also, I mean, God, I don't have any quotables. I wish I wrote down some quotables, but so many points in this movie made me laugh. It was funny. This was a funny movie.
It was funny. Yeah, it's a funny movie. I have a funny story. I was
Yeah.
I was talking to my friend Alex about this movie. Because I wrote this as a no. Okay, so the song that plays. Okay, do you guys remember the Wonder Ball commercial from We Were Children?
I
Does
remember the
anyone
Wonder
remember it? I'm
Ball.
gonna send you guys.
Oh.
I don't remember
I'm
a
gonna send you
commercial.
the Wonder Ball had like this song that would always play, and it gets stuck in my head often. That's the song in the movie, The Book of Love or whatever. When I send it to you guys later, you guys see what I'm talking about. I never realized because I was a child that the Wonder Ball song is just like a parody of that old like love song that plays in this movie. Yeah, but I sent it to you guys later. That was a fun little like full circle moment for me. What was your question, Dan? I totally forgot what you said.
Is that the one that's like da 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 da?
No, I mean, a lot of songs play in this movie. I'll send you the Wonder Ball commercial later on, and you'll see what I'm talking about. But it was like a moment that hit me where like, oh shit, that commercial from my childhood, that song is just like a parody of this old like love song apparently. Because the song's from like the 50s,
Well,
like
all the
soundtrack.
songs are very like carefully chosen because they're all meant to like
Oh yeah,
evoke
Play Johnny
a
Be Good.
certain like emotional resonance. And it's even crazier because
Yeah.
they were all like first choices of his when he was like writing it. He was just like, oh, because when the studio saw, they're like, oh shit, we're gonna have to pay so much shit. None of these bands are gonna want to listen. So your ass better have second and third choices queued up when they say no. And like surprisingly, so many bands said yes, and they were like very
the old
like
James Gunn.
amenable. Yeah. But yeah, no, we're because in this movie, like we're basically listening to George Lucas's mixtape.
Yeah, the old James Gunn
You know,
trick.
like this
Yeah.
is this is like him thinking about like what songs were important to his youth and kind of like
Yeah.
scoring them to the stories that he's trying to tell about that time period. It's really cool the way that he uses like sound and music throughout this film.
Yeah.
Oh,
There's no scores, just the songs. Oh, Dan, you talking about like lines. Yeah, I gotta laugh when Milner is like, yeah, I don't like that surf crap.
yeah.
And the girl, she's like, you don't think the Beach Boys are boss? Like, I love that idea of like, back then the Beach Boys were just like this new fad band. Like, no, they're like one of the most successful bands in history.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
hate that surf shit. That's what I
Yeah.
think that's what he says.
Yeah. And I'm like, oh no, not my Tarantino music. I was offended. But no, it's oh my god, speaking of the whole soundtrack of
Rock
it
and roll's
all.
been downhill since Buddy Holly died. Yeah.
yeah, that made me laugh. Yeah. What oh god. Oh yeah, so about the soundtrack. Yeah, it was the way he was pitching it to studios, I read, was basically like a musical. And it's funny how typically when movies do that, like well, number one, none of the studios wanted to do it because it would have been so expensive, the licensing for all these songs. And also, this is a movie that kind of popularized that. It was really Scorsese that kind of was the one that started like using licensed music in movies that popularized that whole concept, from what I understand. But this was like the first big, like, it was like literally just his soundtrack the entire movie, which was like in its own way a new thing. But yeah, the studios did not want to do that for the cost it would make. They were afraid of doing that. And yeah, initially when the movie started and it was like every 5 minutes was like another song in every scene, I was getting really annoyed by it because typically that stuff annoys the shit out of me when everything just feels like, oh, like it's such an easy trick to like just throw licensed music in this scene. You're just making a music video. However,
Daniel.
well, that was like one of the biggest complaints. Like I think of like the original
Daniel.
Suicide
No, like,
Squad.
That was
Like-
definitely a trepidation that I had too, because I was just like,
I'm just fucking with him.
next song. And it's like, but then you start to realize, oh, it's like diegetic, right?
Yes, it's diegetic.
Like,
It
they
was-
can hear it, and it's
Yeah.
kind of being mixed in a way that it's like, oh, this is, you could think of this almost like blaring from their radios in their cars as they're like driving around.
They're in their cars the entire movie. But yeah, and I have a really good tidbit here that I also. So we can't. Well, a little less credit to Lucas on this. because apparently originally what made it sounds like not what does make a lot of this movie work in the structure was, I don't have the person's name, but it was some woman that he brought in as an editor. And this person,
It's like Lucas was saved by a female editor.
basically, yes, because
What a hack. No, I'm
Lucas apparently, I don't know if it was like his original cut. I don't know if he made a cut or this is how he wanted to structure the movie. Apparently he was like wanted to be very like mechanical about the structure of the movie. He wanted to make sure it was like an ABCD structure where, okay, we go to this character, then we go to the next character, then we go to the next character, and they all have the exact same amount of screen time, and we follow the ABCD structure, and never, like, he didn't want to, but it didn't, and the editor basically came in and was like, no, you can't do that. You have to go with, like, the emotional beats. You have to, like, let it flow. Like, apparently the editor, this girl, I don't have her name, but apparently she was a big factor in making this movie work in the editing room, like, structurally, and
so Verna Fields. She had edited the Sugarland Express.
Yeah, and
she was also one of his film professors too.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and apparently she was the one who kind
also,
of...
Marcia Lucas worked on this too.
Yes,
in the
yeah.
room.
And apparently...
Oh, did she end up doing it? I'm reading how he wanted her to do it, but the studio was against
She has a credit. Yeah, she has a credit.
Okay, cool.
So she probably was involved in some way, but like either couldn't be because of that reason, or like stepped out, or you know. But like she has a credit, so she did something.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so Fields didn't do the whole editing. She had to. She went and worked on What's Up, Doc. Apparently.
Which is a great movie. You should see What's Up, Doc.
Oh, I've heard of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
but
but
Streisand, interesting.
And I think she was a big part in doing the whole, like, I think if you notice, in most, if not all, of the scenes when they transition, the connective tissue is the Wolfman on the radio, and that's kind of the connective tissue going from scene to scene, and that's kind of, I believe that was like her idea from what I understand. But that was kind of like, she's kind of the one that really like set him in the right direction on how to put it together, which I thought was interesting because
that's the job of an editor, right? To help build a better house, to help find a better constructed house. That's and credit where credit is due, of course. And it is bold. Like, obviously he believed in that approach and adopted it because I know he is on record saying, like, because we did it that way, that made the studios even more afraid to touch the movie because they didn't have confidence in that structure at all. Like that ABCD thing, that was the thing that they understood and believed in. But like intercutting like this between the storylines, not really been done before, and made the movie more radical in that sense.
And from what I understand too, at this point, I believe Lucas had already pitched Star Wars to studios and they turned it down. I think he already had like Star Wars as an idea, like being pitched around, and no one took it. And then no one wanted to take this, but it was because of Coppola's clout. He was able to set him up at Universal, I believe.
Because the Godfather,
Coppola won Best Picture, and so you could, if Coppola signed on as producer, you could put "From the man who gave you the Godfather" on the posters, literally. And and
what I always find, what I found was like one of the funniest tidbits on like this whole movie was, I guess Coppola had because it was after the Godfather and all of his success. Coppola apparently still to this day in interviews talks about how he could have financed the entire movie himself, American Graffiti, and for whatever reason he chose not to. And he said it's one of his biggest regrets because he could have made the equivalent of like $100 million because it was like one of the most successful movies ever at the time.
Yeah.
and like
He, like,
production
Lucas
to like
gloats because he
return on
made so
investment.
much money
Yeah.
off of American Graffiti, and it is kind of like a little brother, big brother moment because Lucas often talks about how it was Francis who taught him about like the business side of movie making. You know, he was kind of naive about it, and it was
Yeah.
Francis who told him like, oh, whenever you have this, you rent the equipment back to the company, and that's how you make. Like he taught him all these like little tricks to make money when you're doing these things, and so for Lucas to like outfox him on that early business move was like a really big like arrow in his quiver, so to speak, in their relationship.
Such an amazing story.
And to go back real quick, so Walter Murcha, is that how you pronounce it? So he assisted Lucas in the production, and he's the one suggested making Wolfman Jack, as they say, the backbone. And if you look at Walter's credits, he's worked on like everything on THX, Apocalypse
He edited
Now.
THX. Yeah, they were. He
The
was
three-
Lucas's.
yeah.
He's one of Lucas's friends from film
Yes.
school. They came up together,
Uh,
and Walter Birch was one of
yeah.
the friends that also had a similar idea of doing a futuristic movie, but backed off on
Yeah.
it, but still was like, "Oh, I'll support you, George." And he was involved with the short film too. So
Yeah,
like
we also
another
worked on the
OG.
Three Godfathers, The
Yep.
Conversation, English Patient. He's worked on a lot. He has an extensive career.
Also, the conversation is so well edited.
Yeah, great movie. I just and God, R.I.P. Gene Hackman, man. Oh,
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I think I first saw Gene Hackman, I think probably for the first time when I watched The Conversation, and it was crazy. Then I watched Mississippi Burning.
Looks a lot like John C. Riley.
Kind of,
Looks a
yeah.
lot like John C. Riley in his Wikipedia. Look at his Wikipedia picture. It looks like John C. Riley.
Yeah, he does. It's funny
Really
how
interesting.
like in
Oh, I saw Gene Hackman for the first time with the Birdcage.
oh yeah, haven't seen that yet. No, but it was funny
It's a great
watching.
movie.
Yeah, watching the
Oh, he's
conversation.
in the Royal Tenenbaums. That's right.
Yeah,
That's a great
yeah.
movie. Yeah.
He was like such a nerdy guy in the conversation, and he was so like I was like, oh, this must be what the type that Gene Hackman plays. And then I watched Mississippi Burning, which is it's an alright movie, but he's like the tough guy in that movie. He's like the kick-ass, and I'm like, I buy it, and you just buy it. It was crazy how he went completely to different types of people, and I'm like, he just blew me away. But yeah,
Range, Daniel. It's called Range.
yeah.
Speaking of Range, it's Harrison Ford's just shit-eating grin. Just gets me every time. You know what I'm talking about, Dan?
Yeah.
Just like he's in the car, looks over, just so smug. Oh God, I love him.
I love.
So God,
he's
a young
great.
Harrison Ford, just what an attractive man. Like, am I right, boys? Young Harrison Ford.
I know. Jealous much.
Wood. Oh yeah, just incredible. But like the hat. Oh, he's so just like the shit eating grin just kept getting me. Fucking hell.
Yeah.
What a guy.
No, what a just a mesmerizing, and I'm kind of happy that like we discovered this so much later in our lives, like after Star of going back and being like, whoa, and
Yeah,
I'm
for
happy
sure.
that
It's a good movie.
yeah.
Yeah. It's a fun movie to watch, like in like knowing like everything that happened with Lucas after, obviously, and his life work, and how fucking huge of a franchise that became, and it's just like nice go. That's what I talked about this last episode, like that's kind of why I picked it. Like I want to see this other movie he made with like such a claim that isn't Star Wars. It's before Star Wars. Like what does that look like? And now I know.
Yeah, because it's like it's not only just because it's like deeply personal, of course it is, but it's also like such a good window into how he thinks about movies and movie making, right? Because like the whole film is like meant to be like sociocultural, right? Like it's not just that, oh, we have some funny characters and they're in the early 60s, ha ha ha, isn't that great? It's like, okay, but what were they dressed like? What were the cars they were driving? What was the music they were listening to? What was their favorite DJ? Like what was the slang they were using? Like it's meant to reflect. It's like what was going on in the country around this time? How does that happen? What is this like time period? And he has like a whole it's like it has its whole thesis on music and like how the country was changing, and it's all of this idea of like how George Lucas like thinks about movies and where it comes from, right? Because before he was in film school, he was an anthropology major.
in community college, and that is like how he really got thinking about writing and like humanity, and things like that, the human condition. And so when he comes up with a story, he's not just thinking of like bare bones plot points. He's often thinking about like these larger ideas around them, and how that maps into culture. And that's like why it's called American Graffiti, right? Because in Lucas's mind, graffiti is a great. It's slightly related, but I think it gets the point across. So years later, he was asked, "Why are you doing a Howard the Duck movie? Like, what attracts you to comics?" And he's like, "Well, comics in a way are very close to the people. They're kind of like very close to showing like what was going on, what people were feeling, what people were talking about. It's a lot like graffiti in this way. So like he calls it graffiti because he's showing you like what were the people saying, what were they doing, what were they acting like. This is your way of kind of seeing those left behind footprints, right? Because it's a ghost story, right? As I keep saying, like it was there and it's gone, and these are the traces. It's the graffiti that you leave behind. Even though the building is abandoned, the stuff that people scribble on the walls is still there.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's okay. That's interesting. Yeah, I guess. Yeah, like what were they expressing?
And when you understand that, you understand what he's doing with Star Wars, right? It's kind of like, okay, so it's not just like, oh, it's some fun adventures in space, right? We're doing the Joseph Campbell monomyth, right? We're intermixing all of these other genres with with like westerns and the old sci-fi serials from the 30s through the 50s, and we're mixing in World War II movies, and we're thinking about these larger ideas about the Vietnam War. Like it's all of these, like it's a really great window into like his mind and his soul and how he thinks about sound, right? This movie is so cool because not just like the soundtrack and also like the way the engines work, but like silence, right? Because you're so used to hearing like all of this like ambient music, right? And ambient noise. When it gets suddenly quiet, you're like, oh shit, so like when he's sneaking around to do the sabotage, when George Dreyfus' character is sneaking around to like sabotage the cop car because the pharaohs made him do it, like that's crazy. Or like when they're going to do when they have like the makeout scene. I forget what that little spot is called, but they're like just walking in the dark and it gets like really quiet. That's another fun thing.
yeah, yeah.
I don't know if you guys caught this, but when when Debbie was like, she was telling them about like, oh, is the goat killer here, when they were talking about the goat killer.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That's a spin on the classic urban legend of the Hook, which is like the basis for like all of the Candyman movies and like the modern slasher in a lot of ways. It's like a long-standing American urban legend, and I was like, oh shit, Lord George Lucas put the Hook in this movie. Like that's crazy. But yeah, like some iteration of like a dangerous slasher person attacking like a couple's in a parked car, or in some secluded space, is like a ongoing part of American lore going back decades.
Yeah.
And it was cool to me that he put that in there. But like that's another example of like how we're kind of capturing the zeitgeist, like taking a cross section of society and culture at the time and putting it in the movie.
Yeah, that's really well said. Yeah, because that was literally going to be one of my next questions. Of as I was looking at the poster, I thought, why is it called American Graffiti? I never even really thought about that. But yeah, shit. It's so funny. Even like yeah, I don't know what. Yeah, just something about the way it all comes together. The way, yeah, like we get that really funny storyline with Toad, and the really subversive storyline with why can't I remember? I want to keep saying Milton. His name's Milton now.
Milner.
Pilsner. Milner. You're fucking me up.
There you go.
It was
Millhouse.
And fuck. And it's funny. There's something really kind of beautiful about that whole storyline with Milner and that girl. It's like, I love that, like that, the unexpected pairing of two people, and I always love that in things. The only example that can pop into my head right now is like they did that in one of the seasons of Stranger Things, where like they kind of like paired up different characters, and they and you kind of wait for the moment where they're gonna have kind of not a deep conversation, but both like express their lives to each other and kind of their differences and maybe their struggles, or have like a weird bonding moment, like an unlikely bonding moment between two people that would never interact normally. I always love those kind of dynamics in shows and movies, but I kind of like that there wasn't even really that there in this movie. It was kind of just they have their little adventure, and they, and it plays out, and there are definitely interesting things that happen, like when they're walking in the junkyard or whatever, and then it just kind of ends. And then he saves her, which was really cute from those guys, and yeah, and then it just kind of I don't know, like I don't know why, like that worked so well for me. I don't know.
Yeah, because it's
Pretty
like
well done.
'cause it's the idea that they're like distinct phases in his life. So they can't necessarily talk to each other because they have to go through their own journey. And it's not to say that they don't, right? Because like Richard Dreyfuss's character and the Ron Howard character, they do meet up again later in the movie when like, they're starting to like flip, right? Because before Ron Howard's character was kind of like, no, I want to get out of this town. Like I'm 17, I want to get out of here. Whereas like Richard Dreyfuss' character's like, oh, I don't know, I might stay. I don't know. I'm really on the fence. And by the time they meet up again, they've started to flip, where it's like because Ron Howard's character Steve has internalized the whole idea of like, oh, like it seems like a strange idea to have to leave a place to start a life, and he's starting to like really let that sink in because he's realizing like, no, there's things I like around here, and I do actually really care about Lori. I don't want to leave her. And he's starting to flip, and he's trying to like reconnect, and then like because Richard Dreyfuss' character, he hasn't quite gotten to this conclusion yet, but he's kind of like, what are you talking about? Get away from me, because he's on a completely different journey where he's like wrestling with the idea that maybe I should leave, like I should have to leave. And so there's a little bit of that, but like they are distinct phases, and they do have to sort of resolve. And they're like, I was kind of similar to what you're saying. I was waiting for them all to reconvene at the end, because that's kind of like how these things go, right? They start off together, they get separated, they come back, but they don't, right? Because Richard Dreyfuss never joins them at the street race.
That's right, he doesn't. Yeah, he wasn't there.
He goes to lurk by a payphone to hopefully that the girl calls, and that's how he spends the rest of the night into the early morning. Whereas like the others they do go to the drag race, but he doesn't go to the drag race, and even like their involvement in the drag race like very limited. Like Toad just like signed them up. I thought they were gonna do a thing where all the friends wound up in Milner's car and they raced together. But no, not really. Like it looked like Toad was, but no, he just sort of starts the race and that's it. And like Steve is just like watching on the sideline in horror because he thinks the love of his life just died in the wreck. And then like Cindy Williams' character randomly inserts herself into the car. But yeah,
and that's a good point too, because it's kind of like what I was. It's kind of hard to put it into words because when it started, I thought, okay, they're grappling with whether like with going away to college, and I was like, oh, there was a totally different movie in my mind of what this was gonna be. And then when it turns out to be a hangout movie where what I thought would have been the side characters are very much main characters, and where I usually don't like hangout movies in this vein, like I kept thinking of Dazed and Confused, and I kept thinking, fuck, I didn't really care about, like I just didn't really care for Dazed and Confused, and I thought this is what it's going to be, and I'm not going to jive with it. But for some reason, in becoming a hangout movie, it subverted my expectations of not just being the standard like John Hughes type coming of age movie I thought it was going to be, and it just ended up giving me like a lot of really entertaining and interesting scenes with all these characters where it's not really shoving anything in your face. You're just kind of there to take it in and have all these interesting moments you can interpret things from, or just entertaining interactions that these guys have throughout the night. And so I again like just so shocked me at how much it won me over in the end.
Because it goes back to that tweet that we see bounce around film Twitter all the time, where it's like, the filmmakers of the past, they're like Cronenberg and Lucas and Scorsese, like they're well versed in the ideas of these philosophers or these artists, and so an idea struck them, and so they made a movie using that idea. Whereas the filmmakers of now, they liked those directors, they liked Scorsese, they liked Lucas, so they're making movies that are kind of like with those movies in mind, so they kind of are just imitating. They're not creating in that sense, and so the reason why you might find American Graffiti more successful than subsequent iterations is because American Graffiti benefits from having such a unified, concerted vision, right? Yes, it is a hangout movie, but it's not just a hangout movie. It's actually deeper. Whereas the current hangout movies that are kind of knowingly or unknowingly operating in that vein are kind of just like, yeah, we are literally hanging out. We are here to have a dumb, fun time. Let's relax for 90 minutes. This movie is saying you can do that, but there's also a lot more if you're paying attention, right? There's the music, there's what's being said, there is the clothes, there is the cars, there's this larger idea that the movie is then filling out and representing, which is not something that you necessarily get from subsequent teen movies that are, even though they might fit into a similar mold, they don't have that same type of vision and thus fall flat.
Yeah. No, yeah, I definitely agree. Even today, I mean, you hear stories like when you go in to pitch a movie, even if it's original idea, you got to like compare it to something else. Like think of this mixed with this. Like how many times have you seen those tweets of like this movie has been described as this mixed with this and this vein, kind of like this movie that So, yeah, it's yeah, no, totally fucking great. And I just I was like, it's just the entire movie. It's just the whole thing of they're just driving around in cars and everyone's just yelling to each other from cars. It's like, I'm just like, is that all you fucking kids do is drive around? Like, go to a bar for God's sake.
They didn't have bars, Dan.
Or like it was just funny. It was just funny. Like if that was the time. Like I'm not saying this is a complaint. Just a funny observation I had. Like that they're just screaming to each other from their cars at stoplights, and it's like, did you hear Johnny's gonna be racing that guy down on Old Drury Lane, and it's like, and I love the hairstyles. I love Milford's like the white tee with the cigarettes and the Milner, whatever, fuck off, whatever his name is, Han Solo,
Miller Lite, Miller Lite.
And like Gene, it's just like that meme of like in the hairdos like that I love, and it's like, I better not catch you at the big game tomorrow, but like they're all like giving that.
Oh, you know what that haircut's called? Like that greaser haircut. Do you know what it's actually called?
Is it a Caesar?
It's called the duck's ass.
Is it?
Love that.
That's what I'm going for.
Or the ducktail, to be more polite. But yes, like so, like where it's like kind of like greased, and then it's like in the back, it's like parted a little bit. Like, yeah, that's the back part. It's why the back looks like that, because it kind of looks like the rear of a duck. So it's called a ducktail or the duck's ass.
Oh, that's definitely what I want. No, yeah.
Oh man, please bring it back.
It's funny.
Bring it back. I
love that hairstyle. No, it's funny. The what was
my grandfather had that hairstyle.
Oh, really?
He's this generation. He's
yeah. What was the guy? What was the name of the biker gang again?
The Pharaohs.
The Pharaohs.
They were so funny. Like,
and they weren't bikers.
Biker gang. They're just greasers. They're just greasers.
Or whatever. Yeah.
They're just greasers.
They walked in snapping, going, "When you're a jet all the way." And but when the main, I know I got Remington going. But
never alone.
Officer Crumpkey. I can't believe I remember so much. But so
it's Krupke, not Crumpkey.
Whatever the fuck his name is. No, the main guy, did he look like he was like 50 years old, or am I crazy?
No, he did. He looked like he was way older than all of them.
He also had a nice head of hair. But I was laughing because I'm like, this guy looks so much older than everyone else. And then I thought
literally thought he was a West Side Story cast member. I thought he was
really?
One of the guys. I forget which one. But yeah, I was like, wait, is this the same guy, just like older because it's like a decade later from that film? And then I looked up, no, it was a different guy. But yeah, to your point,
Um, it was kind of, and I thought it was kind of funny, like how they, did I miss a part where they kind of like kidnap Richard Dreyfuss or make him drive around with them? And they end up just kind of becoming friends. Like he's just kind of literally, like he's kind of just going along with stealing stuff with them. But he's basically just by the end, like they're just buddies. It was so funny, that dynamic, how it developed. Unless I missed something, I don't know.
he didn't turn them in when they were trying to rob the arcade, and so because of that, they were like, okay, I guess we're cool now. But then they like also turned that on its head, where it's like, oh, you can be cool with us, but you have to do like our initiation right, which was him like vandalizing the cop cars.
Right. Yeah, no.
Like, you're all right, son.
Yeah, so great, all of them, and just the whole bit.
Also, like fits into the theme of like choices, right? Because it's like, oh, you could stay and be a pharaoh, or you go to college.
Yeah, that's true. No, oh my God, so many good things to chew on. Yeah, I knew there was like, this was such like a rich pick for such a great like conversation. Yeah, even like all the stuff with Toad, the whole buying alcohol scene was so funny. I loved that whole sequence where he,
good.
And the guy, oh, I laughed so hard I didn't see it coming. Where he goes, oh yeah, you want a bottle? And he walks in, and he runs out and throws him the bag, and the guy shooting at. Oh, that got me
it's so funny. I'm like, so you came there planning to do like an armed robbery of the liquor store, and you thought, yeah, I'll do the kid a solid on the way out. Like,
why can't
it's so crazy.
Wait. Here's the thing too. So the shopkeep comes down and starts fucking shooting at him, and I recently watched F is for Family, which was Bill Burr's like animated show set in the 70s. And
I love
the amount of times in that. Oh, you watched it too? Okay. The amount of times, like, there's like there's a scene where what is it, when Kevin's hanging out with I think it's season 2. You know, he goes and robs the liquor store, Remington. I don't know if you remember, and he finally gets caught because they finally changed the door from a push to a pull, and he gets caught that way. The same thing, the shopkeep just starts fucking blasting at them, and I'm like, okay, so in the 20th century, was that just a thing? Like, if you robbed the store, you could just get gunned down by the shopkeep? Is that my understanding?
Now.
I know, but was it more common back then? Was it more common accepted back then? Like, yep, Johnny got shot by the alcohol store.
It's accepted now. You can do whatever. Gun owners have all the power in this country.
It's so funny. This is gonna sound.
Ones.
Yeah, this is gonna. Sorry, Gene. This is gonna sound so nerdy. But I always maybe I'm not the only one who does. Maybe Remington. Maybe you do this sometimes. But I think I'm always like so what's the word? I gravitate so much to like small budget movies that take place in one location, and like there's only like it's only like compelling through dialogue, and there's like tension just by someone having a gun. I always think of like, I'll think of something or I'll see a scene in like a movie and I'll think, ooh, that would be a great short film. And I always think of like little ideas for short films. And maybe this is like kind of clerksy, but like one of my ideas for a short film has always been like, what if there's just like a guy that walks into like a 7-Eleven at night, and like in the middle of it, like a robbery happens and he gets caught up like in a robbery, like, and the guy behind the register like has a gun. Like that's always a thing in movies, right? Where like the guy behind the register has a gun. So I think that's, I don't know. But yeah, that whole bit got me so hard. Remington.
I gotta wrap it up soon, boys, because I'm quite tired and
yeah,
I have work tomorrow.
Yeah, sorry, I got off.
Yes.
So,
me too.
I do want to.
I have to pack, and I should get some sleep if I want to start feeling better for tomorrow.
Yeah. So yeah, that's pretty much all I had to say. Like we could. I don't know if you guys have any closing. We want to do closing thoughts.
Let's touch on. So there is a sequel. Which I'm curious. I'm probably gonna.
I
watch
wanted
my
to
own
see the
time.
sequel. I was telling Dan that like because I love this movie so much, I wanted to like go and watch all the influences and see the sequel and look at other like Lucas projects, but also like his co-writers, Katz and Huck. I might be mispronouncing his last name, to see what their other projects were, because famously they also worked with
Yeah.
Lucas on not only Radioland Murders but Howard the Duck. And what they were working on simultaneous to American Graffiti that came out the year after was a horror movie called Messiah of Evil, which is apparently like a really well-respected horror movie and is like considered an underrated gem in like the horror world. And it's on Shudder, so I might check that out. But not to derail it, but more American Graffiti was another thing I wanted to see and didn't get the chance to.
Yeah, and it's I like it gives him a lot more insight on Terry's fate, which I found really interesting because the text at the end of this movie it's ambiguous. It doesn't say he died, it just says he went missing in action. But yeah, so that wasn't really interesting. But yeah, so I do want to touch on the ending real quick. As we've already said, it's a fucking gut punch. I was not well, okay, Milner's fate. I was like, yeah, sounds about right. I expected it to be more like he died in a drag race, but you know, it's the 50s, 60s. There's no seatbelts. Cars were just steel boxes back then. That's just how it goes. Like Terry's introduction when he comes in on a motorcycle, he doesn't have a helmet. He just doesn't have a helmet on, which is like the most quintessential like 1960s thing to me. Like, dude, you hit a fucking curb and you're dead. But you know, it's the 60s. It's fine. Who needs regulations?
Hey, fun fact: they keep a goof from that bit where
Yeah,
he's
when he
like on the
crashes.
Vespa. Yeah,
when he
that's a
crashes,
goof
yeah.
because he was like because the
I saw.
actor thought it would be funny if he like hopped up on the curve and did like a whole thing, but he messed it up and like kind of like you can see it like he's kind of like falling and tripping and he hits the garbage can, and then he's like also you can see him standing there kind of being like because he was just waiting for someone to say cut. And then he could like reset and do it, but George never said cut, so he was just kind of was like, "Okay, better go keep doing my scene now." And you could like see him be like, and then he like walks over to go join Ron Howard. It's like really funny, but that's a goof. Yeah,
It works for the character though. You know,
it
works
does.
really well
No,
for
it
the
really
character.
does. And that's
Yeah.
probably why George didn't say cut. Like,
Yeah, I totally forgot he has the Vespa too. Like the whole movie because he's in the hot rod, and then like at the end, like it's really in character. Like, oh, this dude who's kind of like a car aficionado seems to really know a lot about them. I guess he can't afford a car. I don't know. Anyway, yeah. So gut punch, just huge gut punch, and like I'm not gonna lie, my initial reaction to that text was like, "What the fuck? I think I hate this." But like immediately, I'm like, "No, I get it." Like I think it was just the shock of it, and like you know, like I think Milner is my favorite character. So then seeing that like, oh, he fucking dies, then like you know, once you think about it, like, no, yeah, no, of course he dies because also like he's the kind of character who he can only exist in this time period. I just can't picture that person existing in the 70s or the 80s or the 90s. It's just that kind of character who's like, no, like you can only exist in this time period, so you're gonna die with this time period. And then I don't know if this is like intentional, but you know, he says like rock and roll died of Buddy Holly, another man who, you know, he died a very tragically young death. I wonder if that was Lucas' intention to like have him say that line as like a you know, like a parallel. I don't know. What do you guys think?
That's a good
well, it
read,
fits with
yeah.
it, right? Because it's a like I keep saying, it's a ghost story, right? This doesn't these
Yeah.
people don't exist anymore. This era does not
Yeah.
exist anymore. This zeitgeist does not exist anymore. And so the idea that a person so of those times dies
Yeah.
at the end of those times,
Yeah.
it's very fitting. Same thing with like Toad, who you know also looks like a young man of this era, and is kind of like set up as someone you would traditionally expect to be like, oh, it's gonna work out just right for him. He's gonna figure it out. He's not gonna be so awkward and weird. And then he goes and dies in Vietnam, right? Like it's just like that, you know. And kind of like highlighting how like the Vietnam War is also like this key turning point away from this particular cultural moment,
Yeah.
because they're gonna like the next year is when they start the drafts,
Yeah.
because Gulf of Tonkin happens the well 2 years after I should say, but yeah.
And of course, the studio did not want that text. They were fighting tooth and nail.
Oh, they didn't.
They did
They
not
didn't?
want that text. They were adamant, but I guess they got it. But yeah. So no, I mean, yeah. Like I said, I had such a strong read on the car crash at the end of like the death of their nostalgia. I was not expecting that second gut punch. So yeah, I was like, oh, this is fucking amazing. I loved it. Almost, it was kind of what's the like Coen Brothers esque almost to me, of like almost a lot of different, but almost like a tinge of like a nihilism ish to it. But yeah, so
No, you're right about that car crash though, because like I knew there was a race in this. I didn't know what it was going to be like, but I knew there was a race because like I know George Lucas, this man likes to put races and shit. This specifically is a car movie, and also they spend the whole movie being like, "Where's that guy with the piss yellow car? I want to race him. He's number one." Like, so they're teeing up a race, and so like you're expecting this big crazy race, right? And like it is like kind of dramatic the way that it ends, but it doesn't go on very long. It's very quick and to the point. But then so you think, okay, that's the climax. We're coming down now, and then the ending just fucking wallops you, as I said before. And like it's not just the text. Like I really think the selection of All Summer Long is like so smart and so well
Yeah.
used, because that's like actually like a kind of like a happy-go-lucky upbeat song in of itself. You know, it's kind of like, oh, you know, we're enjoying the summer, you know, and like because of the way it's being used, it's being almost reinterpreted as like it's instead of looking forward to the summer, it's looking back on the summer of youth, you know, and like now that's all gone. And like specifically the way it like hones in like on those like harmonies and the way they're like drawing out those notes, it really flows well as you feel that, like, as I've said it before, the bittersweet wellspring of emotion, because you're thinking about Dreyfus's face in the plane combined with the news you've just been received of like these characters' fates, and then with the music, it's just such a like tidal wave of emotion. You know, it's so good.
yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. Yeah, but that covers everything I wanted to touch on. So yeah, you guys good for closing thoughts?
Yeah.
What's your summary, Gene? Summary of American Graffiti and rating.
Oh, okay. No, I probably give it like a 4.5, maybe a 5, probably. A light, as Fantano would say, I give it a light 5. I don't know. Summary, yeah. Great coming of age film. I think I honestly I would recommend this to anybody. Just one of those movies I think you just have to watch. And dare I say, watch it after you've seen Star Wars. I think it kind of enhances it. I think it does. So yeah, watch it after you've seen Star Wars.
Yeah.
That's what I have to say.
Yeah. No, 9 out of 10. Thought it was great. Again, just so surprised at how much I ended up loving it. Typically a little bit outside of my wheelhouse of what my taste is, but so much of the George Lucas of it all, the meta-ness of just the analyzing it through his career. So great. Yeah, kind of absolutely loved it. So yeah, 9 out of 10, great conversation. And yeah, I think if you guys should watch with this fresh in your mind. I would definitely say try to watch THX. I think it's 1138 as soon as you can after this, because seeing him go from that to this, you see it's literally like, oh, there's the technical aspects and the production of Star Wars, and here's all like the emotion and it's so crazy how these two films so cleanly map onto it, as we talked about. But yeah, so no, great pick. Loved it. Great movie. What about you, Remington?
All right. Well, I would up the ante further and challenge you, Dan, to go watch the short film for THX 1138.
I'll do that.
Because from what you're describing, I can clearly see in my mind, because we kind of like complete the circle, right? Because I've seen the short film but not the film. You've seen the film but not the short film. I can kind of see even further how it goes back, because that short film is so cool, because it's really cool how he's able to accomplish a lot in that film with so little. A lot of that short film is just like, it's effectively a montage of like THX walking, because the whole thing is he's trying to escape, right? And then it like cuts to different like surreal images combined with like a lot of the your understanding of the plot actually comes more from like people talking over radios,
Mhm.
right? Because they're like, oh, THX is escaping, we have to stop him, and then like, oh, he's escaped, please notify his partner or YYYO or whatever the hell her name is. And it's like really cool because you can kind of hear like, oh, that's the Imperials and the Rebels talking over their radios,
The
right?
sounds
You
are
like-
starting
like-
to form. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So the stepping stones, the prologue is even deeper. So I would challenge you, Daniel,
Ooh.
to go check out the short
I'm gonna
film. It's
watch
only
it.
15 minutes and it's on YouTube for free.
I'm gonna watch it. The whole THX thing. It's all just like if you grow up on Star Wars, the whole thing is just literally Leo meme of pointing and going, "Ooh, there's the thing." That's the whole movie. But yeah,
Anyway, as I have not made any secret this entire time, I love the film. Similar to Dan, I was like sitting there for a lot of the movie. So I also started with the same trepidations of being like, oh, is this what it is? Is it just going to be endless needle drops? Like, is it just going to do like weird teen shit? Like, is this what the movie is? And then like, as it was going along, it was like winning me more and more over until eventually that ending just fucking hit me like a ton of bricks. And I'm like, no, this movie's fucking great. This movie is so good. I would recommend it to anyone, not just like George Lucas aficionados such as myself or even Star Wars fans. I would recommend it to be like, anyone who's like, okay, so you thought of this guy as one thing. Well, why don't you check out this other thing to see how you think? I would recommend it to anyone who's like, oh, you like teen movies, you like hangout movies. Why don't you check out something different that's in that same vein? In that sense, I would recommend it to like a wide range of people because I think it's like as good as it is, it's also widely accessible. Actually, I would probably make my parents watch this because I think that they would. I mean, they like Happy Days, so they would connect with like the Ron Howard character a lot, as this is kind of like a precedent for Happy Days. And my dad obviously loves Star Wars, so George Lucas is like a selling point for him. But like I think that they would get a lot out of it. Now they're the generation after, but I think that they would appreciate a lot of what's going on in that movie. So yeah, no, I gave it a 5 out of 5 on Letterboxd, and I stand by it. And I am seriously rethinking my 4. I don't know if I can fit this in. Because it's like it's either this or like Paris, Texas that I'm struggling to fix in because I really loved Paris, Texas. Have you seen Paris, Texas, guys?
I did.
It's like it's my next pick. No.
I did see it somewhat recently. Not the biggest fan, but I could see myself it growing on me more. But yes, it's all right. Yeah, I need to watch it again.
I love that movie so much.
Yeah. No, yeah.
I think Harry Dean Stanton's performance in that is like one of a kind. It's so special and it's so good. And there's a couple monologues that he had that just hit you so hard. And obviously everyone talks in that movie about the scene where they're like showing the home movies and it creates like such a powerful feeling of nostalgia. But yeah, no, that's beside the point. But yeah, those two movies I'm like struggling of whether I should change my 4 to fit them in because yeah, that's how much I love this movie. The ending just hit me so hard and I could feel it so clearly. So yeah, great pick, Gene. Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, no problem. I'm happy to have picked it. I felt like going into it, we would all at the very least appreciate it as George Lucas appreciators. So I'm happy that our expectations were, I guess, met, and then just like also like just surpassed. So
Yeah.
there you go.
We should add like a subtitle to this of the pod as being average George Lucas enjoyers.
Yeah. The people versus
one more
George
thing.
Lucas 2. Sorry.
Good this time. No, another thing I wanted to say is if we're checking out things that this movie might inspire us to look at further, check out the movie that inspired this movie that George Lucas kind of like modeled this movie off of. It's a Federico Fellini movie called I Vitelloni. I only got like 10 minutes in when I tried to watch it yesterday because I was sick and I passed the fuck out. But good movie. And it's kind of about, it doesn't have like the same plot structure or anything like that. And the men in it they're men. They're like young men, but they're not boys like these people are. And it's kind of like, but it's a similar idea of like young men
having a like coming of age moment as they figure out their places in life as society changes. So like similar idea, that though American Graffiti is doing it in a different way and in color and in America and with 18-year-olds, 17-year-olds versus like people in like their mid 20s, So go check out Eva Taloni. It's on HBO Max.
I hope in like 10 years, some kid who is now between 18 and 21 makes a movie like this. Because, there's, times are changing and times are really weird and terrible right now. And I'm sure a lot of kids, facing June approaching and thinking, I'm going to go to college and, having fears about the future, right? And their life after high school. I'm hoping one of these kids makes a movie like about that in like 5-10 years. I'd love to see that.
Yeah.
Me too.
All right.
Ending note. It was sorry. Like halfway through this movie, I kind of always chuckle to myself, like when I'm watching old movies of big ensembles, and I just say to myself, "There's like a lot of fucking white people. Is there like any black people in this town?" I'm like, not to be super woke, but even me, I'm like, did they have to like try to not cast like anyone that's not white? Like they must be going out of their way at some point with these big. Anyway,
there was one black person at the sock hop dancing. And then there was a Spanish greaser.
Yes. Anyway.
Yeah, but that's also part of the milieu that's being operated in, right? So George Lucas is telling it's skewed perspective. I grew up in a white suburb in Modesto, so to me, this is what this time period is like. It's and because it's nostalgic, it's kind of like also flattening out. Maybe if there were bad things, we're kind of flattening that out in favor of the good things that I like to remember on that I wish weren't gone but are gone. It's a little reactionary in that way, but good art can still be reactionary. You just have to understand it. It's also kind of positioning itself as being like a loss of innocence story, right? Where like it's kind of like these were the good innocent times when rock and roll was still clean and good. It was before all that like dirty political stuff with the Beatles happened, like they specifically like juxtaposing it in that way. So you're right to point it out, but I think almost whether subconsciously or unconsciously a part of the art,
No, it was I didn't buy. It was just funny, like how I did they have to like try to not? But I just think in my head like it's so funny, like how you just eloquently laid that all out, and was very very well said, and like that's what was going on in George's head, and then like how he like said that in the casting room, how it came out of his mouth, and he just goes no black people in this movie. What do you mean, George? And he goes, well, so I got this concept for Watto. So anyway, all right. We're done. No, okay, cool. Great.
And what's your pick?
Great conversation. All right. Let's go to this pitch. Okay. So it's funny. I did have something kind of linked. There was a link to this movie that I was gonna do, and I changed it, and I just pussied out because I don't think it would get
We're not watching the Phantom Menace.
No, it wasn't that. No, I just don't think there would be
watching the.
I wanted to watch. It's working.
No, I had a good idea, but and then I thought about it. I was like, you know what? I feel like there would be like no conversation we could really derive out of it. Too much, so I was like going back and forth, and I have all these picks. I have a private letterboxed list where I have all these ideas of what we can pick, and I get so frustrated every time I go for a pick that I'm like, this is the one, and I go, shit, Remington has seen this, and it's not even, and that's not like, that's okay. I'll always look. But it's always something like, somehow it's like something you just watched like a week ago. And I'm like, what the fuck, man? So fuck you. Like, so like every time.
I have almost 1,900 movies logged on Letterboxd.
I was like, what the fuck, man? But anyway, so I found something. And this is a movie that I've seen before. And this is a movie that is very high up in my top 50 of all time. It's one of my favorite movies. It's probably in like my top 20. I don't know, but
swear to God, if it's hardcore Henry Dan.
No, but what's funny is what I love about doing this show and just and talking with you guys and having these great conversations is I really love like figuring out your guys' tastes. Like, I know when I recommended Network, like, oh, this is going to be a Remington movie. Like, Remington is a theater kid. Like, there's certain, I know I know Gene, I know you tend to gravitate kind of like towards more genre stuff. I don't have you pinned down as much, but like, I think you like genre shit, sci-fi and stuff and comics. But then there's me. So for this recommendation, I'm bringing you guys into my world a little bit. Okay. And
Tarantino's Death Proof.
And no, this is
God?
Good choice. But no. So this is a movie that Remington has never seen. Gene, I don't think has ever seen. It's a classic.
I'm not.
Con, it's a little bit longer than the movies we have watched. Pro, it's on streaming. So you won't have to pay for it. What we're gonna watch is a movie that is going to be very relevant because there is a very famous actor that we lost recently, and we needed to explore his work. That was also very notably inspired, Gene, bring you in. This was very well inspired by it was one of the biggest inspirations for The Dark Knight. We're going to be watching 1995 Michael Mann movie, Heat.
Oh, this is perfect.
That's right.
Eat?
No,
Heat.
this is perfect. This is
Okay.
this is so perfect because so I've shared bits and pieces of this with you guys over time. I have
Val Kilmer's in it. Cool.
insane-
De Niro.
I have like
what a cast.
yeah, that's the connection. But I have like an
what a
insane
cast.
list of films that I'm like watching in relatively in order, just like an organized system to try and like come across films. And Heat is literally almost up because it is literally an influence on The Dark Knight. And The Dark Knight, I have a scheduled like Dark Knight trilogy rewatch because I'm at like the best superhero films of all time, part of the master list. So this is actually very perfect and very well timed. So I am very pro this. I have been wanting to watch this movie for a while. It's even more perfect because Val Kilmer just recently passed, and I like Michael Mann. All right, if you like Michael Mann movies, guys, go check out Manhunter. Manhunter is so fucking good.
That's the next one I'm gonna watch. But I wanted to
And you just watched Last of the Mohicans too. Okay.
Yep. So I've been exploring.
You just watched
I
it, yep.
think now my two favorite directors are Scorsese or Tarantino and Scorsese in that order. But I think between John Carpenter and Michael Mann, I think Michael Mann is my third favorite director of what I've been watching a lot of his movies, and Heat has always been such a great I am a big. If you guys haven't figured it out, aside from Tarantino, I love my crime movies. I love De Niro. I love The Mob. I'm not Italian, but I'm very like that is my lane of movies. And I thought to myself, we haven't really.
Remington likes Manhunter. It's based on Red Dragon. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
I know Remington.
that's my next. That's my next one, Manhunter.
You talked about it before too. Yeah.
Also,
yeah.
Thief was also my runner. I was also going to do Thief, but then I was like, you know what? No, we're going to do the Val Kilmer one. So no, I got to like this is.
Let's do a Miami Vice movie night.
Yeah, like this was me.
Oh, that'd be so cool.
I'm like, we gotta get into Dan's world a little bit. We need to get a little De Niro in Gene's life. But yeah,
it's when I had you watch Snatched. I knew you'd love that because that's a very Dan's World movie.
That's a me.
So
I
get it.
So I wanted to bring this into your guys' orbit. And yes, Val Kilmer.
I'm a Guy Ritchie fan.
Yeah, so. And Gene, when you watch this movie, especially the opening of Dark Knight, but Heat is like the number one inspiration for the Dark Knight. So yeah,
well, like no legitimate, like Nolan.
Well, yeah.
Like Nolan watched this movie and he's like, I'm gonna make this movie, but with Batman.
Mainly the opening.
Yeah, so like Metropolis, Dr. Mabuse, the original Zorro film from like the 1920s. They're all like big influences. Also, certain Batman comics obviously are big influences on that trilogy. Also like Star Wars and Silence of the Lambs, they're all big influence. Blade Runner, another big influence. But Heat is like a really big one.
Yeah,
and so which is why Heat has been on my list forever.
Harrison Ford's also in Blade Runner. Jesus Christ, he's done so much.
Yeah.
How fucking good is Blade Runner?
So I'm so excited to get Gene into like a De Niro, like a real De Niro.
Yeah.
Like one of my favorites. The GOAT. All right.
Yeah.
So
And when you watch Manhunter, let me know because I fucking love Manhunter so much.
That is the next one I'm gonna check out. Yep. I can't wait. All right. Awesome. Well, we did it. That'll be May's
Nice,
pick.
boys.
Well, thank you so much,
You guys
everyone.
have no idea what I'm gonna pick.
Oh, I can't wait. No, this is fun. No, I love doing this. This is like I look forward to doing this every month. It's so fun.
Me too.
Oh, fucking what? John Voight. How do you pronounce his last name?
Voight?
John
Voight?
Voight.
Voight. He's in this, and he's
Yeah.
he's I forgot. He's a special ambassador to Hollywood with my boy Mel Gibson, who
He's
Has done
Angelina
no wrong,
Jolie's
okay?
dad.
Oh,
I know he's
I didn't
Angelina
know.
Jolie's dad.
You didn't know that? Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
No.
her. That's her actual name, Angelina Voight.
That's
yeah,
her-
yeah. That's like
Yeah,
yeah.
he's
I
her
didn't know
dad,
that.
Dan.
Oh.
He's also like my boy Mel Gibson. He's
They
problematic.
like don't get along. Like she's publicly disowned him, but like yeah, she is his dad, and he is
I
the
don't blame
grandfather
her.
of Shiloh Pitt. So yes,
Yeah.
But
I mean,
yeah,
good career, great actor, but problematic as all fuck, just like Mel Gibson.
Gina, have you
remember in
heard?
Megalopolis when he was like, "Look at this boner."
That movie was fucking
Happened,
great.
Dan?
That movie was fucking great. Have you heard of Heat? It's a very famous movie.
I'm sure I have.
No, it's okay, yeah.
I'm looking
I
at the
was-
cast now, and I'm like,
It's
yeah.
okay. We all need to watch more Kilms in light of our tragic news. No more Kilms. We need to
Oh,
watch.
I was like,
Good quality
Yes.
kill making is rare these days. Now it's a scarce commodity, so we have to watch more Kilms with real kilmic quality, made by true kilmakers.
Yeah, we need more
Jesus
pottery in our lives. Anyway,
Kilm. You not-
hey, what?
This is
Heyo,
his last movie, anyway.
Top Gun Maverick, but
Was that Kilmer's last movie?
probably yeah.
I think it was. Yeah.
All
Oh, I
right.
think it was. Yeah. That was his final film appearance. Okay.
Well, thank you everyone for watching. Like and subscribe. Play me out, Gene.
I don't know.
Until next time.
I don't remember is it the song they play in Family Guy? What's the song again? Like, play me out, Johnny.
And dun 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 dun.
Keep thinking you guys are emulating the Smiling Friends outro music, which is like do 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 do.
It's so obnoxious. I love it. All right. Bye everyone. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.